So the mics are working for the broadcast, not for the room. So the speakers are down here. Yeah.
Got it.
So the people in the room won't be able to hear us.
Okay, I got that. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, are we ready? Laszlo?
That I don't know. Keith is in there.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for June 1st, 2021. Per the General Assembly's approval of the Governor's amendments to the biennial budget, the governing body may now meet electronically without a quorum actually assembled in a single location and without the in-person governing body members voting on the participation of those who are remoting in. The following benchmarks for the meeting this evening have been met. First, the governor has declared a state of emergency for the current COVID-19 pandemic in accordance with Code of Virginia. Second, the declared emergency makes it impractical or potentially unsafe for the governing body to assemble in a single location, and guidance from state and federal government support this determination. Therefore, the governing body will be meeting with various members participating electronically through GoToMeeting. Third, the meeting is to discuss or transact the business statutorily required or necessary to continue operations of the governing body. Fourth, the governing body will make available a recording for transcript of the meeting on its website in accordance with Code of Virginia. Fifth, notice has been and will continue to be provided to the public using available methods. Lastly, we have made and will continue to make arrangements for public access through electronic means, including the ability to comment. Participating electronically is Vice Mayor Banks. Those participating in person are Councilmember Darrell Moore, Councilmember Laura Hampton, Councilmember Hasib Javed, Councilmember Yessi Amaya, Councilmember Alana Mensing, and Mayor Jeanette Rischel. Moving on to approval of the agenda, we will be striking 9F from the agenda. It will be deferred to a future meeting. It requires just a bit more staff time, so please strike that. Are there any other changes to the agenda? And we do have a closed session.
Yes, we actually have 5 closed meeting items, agenda items.
Okay, and that is listed on the agenda.
You're welcome.
No sleep tonight.
So moved. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so moved by Councilmember Moore. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and second, and all in favor of approval of the agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have a moment of silence and our Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Moore, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, ma'am, Mayor.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, moving on to public comment. There will be 3 opportunities this evening for the public to comment. In addition to the regular public comment time, there will be 2 public hearings. So is there anyone signed up to speak now during the regular public comment time?
I don't see anyone signed up.
Okay, is there anyone not signed up but who would still like to make public comment? Okay, in that case, we will move on. The first public hearing is for the purpose of receiving public comment regarding school board appointments. There will be 2 appointments made. The terms of both terms begin July 1st, 2021, and they expire June 30th, 2024. The interviews were conducted May 26th, and the appointments will be made on June 15th. Our city is very blessed to have had 4 wonderful applicants make application. Mr. Paul Alexander, Ms. Stacy Fleming, Mr. Tyler Vaughn, and Ms. Harmony Bisco. We thank you all very much for participating in the interview process. Much appreciated. So I declare the public hearing open. We will go into public comment. There are a number of different options that were open to the public to make comment. First, is there anyone here in person who would like to give public comment in support of an applicant? Okay, seeing no one and hearing no one, is there anyone through GoToMeeting who would like to make public comment remotely? Has anyone requested a link?
I have no idea. Gotta check with Lana.
Keith, has anyone requested a link?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, then we will move on to emails. We do have some emails that came in, so let's move on to that. Good evening. My name is Erica Phillips. I'm a STEM teacher for grades 3 through 5 at Manassas Park Elementary School, and I live in the Manassas Park community. I would like to recommend Stacy Fleming for the school board position. Stacy is my neighbor and my friend. She's kind, helpful, and passionate about Manassas Park schools, and her sons attend the high school. I believe Stacy would bring a listening ear to every issue the school board faces. She'll be a team player and will take into consideration all sides of every issue before casting her vote. Please consider Stacy Fleming to work side by side with you on the school board. The next one is from Ms. Teresa Hayden in support of Harmony Bisco. My name is Teresa Hayden, and I'm a librarian at Manassas Park Elementary School. I'm sending in this letter tonight in support of Harmony Bisco being appointed to the Manassas Park School Board. I have worked with Harmony from 2017 to 2020, and I can say that certainly that she would be a fantastic addition to the school board. When she was employed by MPCS, I could see how much she cared for the students in her class as well as their parents and colleagues. She believes that students should be stakeholders as much as the teachers, administration, and community. Watching her give our MPES students ownership in the 2020 Multicultural Festival was amazing. Even though the event was canceled due to COVID, our students really embraced being student leaders and letting the teachers take an advisory role. Her knowledge of being an educator who taught in Manassas Park makes her unique in that she knows our strengths as well as our weaknesses. Harmony will bring a new voice and perspective to the school board, and I hope you will consider appointing her. The next comment is from Ms. Robin Weatherholtz. As I finish my 4th year teaching in Manassas Park City Schools, I have a vested interest in the future of our school board. I want to state my opinion as a stakeholder in the city's government and share my thoughts with you about filling the vacancies on the school board. However, between putting finishing touches on the end of the school year and maintaining a healthy work-life balance, I'm unable to attend the public hearing forum for comment tonight. I would like to share and express my thoughts with you via email for consideration after watching the initial interviews and rounds of questioning via YouTube. I can confidently say without a doubt Mrs. Harmony Bisco and Mr. Paul Alexander are the best candidates for the position. Mr. Alexander has served the city on the school board for a number of years and has my full support. His decisions are carefully weighed out, thoughtful, and ensure what is best for the school community. He asks tough questions and is able to defend and stick with his tough decisions while remaining an outstanding member of the community. Mrs. Bisco is another outstanding member of the community, has the experience of teaching in the community and will be serving, and offers a unique skill set to the board. She's willing to compromise, hear out different ideas, and gather an accurate account of the whole picture before committing to a decision, and possesses the skills to dig in and get the job done. Although Mrs. Bisco will be new to the board, she is in no way new to making tough decisions in the best interest of the stakeholders. I fully 100% back and support both candidates, Harmony Bisco and Paul Alexander. The next recommendation is from Gary Bisco in support of Mrs. Harmony Bisco. It is with the highest level of enthusiasm that I recommend Harmony Bisco for appointment to the school board. My wife selflessly devotes herself to the education of children, both personally and throughout her professional career. When I retired from the Marine Corps and we finally had the opportunity to plant roots in a community, she chose Manassas Park because of the potential she sees in the schools here. Those military moves are especially tough on someone with a career as an educator. It means a lot of starting over, new curriculum to learn, different standards to meet, and additional certifications to obtain. However, it provides invaluable experiences from different school districts each with unique challenges and demographics. Also allows for the assignment of differing roles in education. From this, she has experience ranging from classroom teacher and mentor to school administrator. These experiences were extremely beneficial in the classroom, will also guide her and ground her decision-making as a board member if provided the opportunity. Mrs. Bisco and I moved to Manassas Park and purchased our home here. Our adult children graduated from Manassas Park schools, and we still have one child who attends MPES. My wife was also a teacher at Manassas Park last year when she transferred to Prince William County. This transfer was not due to problems or ill feelings within the district. Quite the opposite. It was based on her feeling she would not be able to devote the additional time and effort needed to ensure the success of her students while dealing with a family crisis involving one of our now adult children. With a situation resolved, she is again to support Manassas Park Schools. Mrs. Bisco has the credentials and experience to join the other selfless school board members in supporting our biggest asset, our children. She will make an excellent board member with a focus educating our youth with the city budget constraints. She is skilled at remaining focused on the bigger picture, but understanding the importance of negotiation and compromise. I urge you to appoint Mrs. Bisco to the school board. Thank you, Mr. Bisco. Tell me if I get near 3 minutes, Dean. You're usually our timekeeper.
Oh, I haven't been paying attention. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, because there are a couple long ones, and I know our limit is 3 minutes, and I forgot.
Well, it's for public comment. I mean, you can read stuff into the record if you want to.
Well, right, but since there's about two dozen, I think we
All right,
probably
I will start
should.
timing you then.
Just in case. Okay, thanks, Dean.
You're welcome.
Next one is from Ms. Margaret Duncan. I'm emailing this afternoon in regard to Harmony Bisco and the school board position. I first began teaching for Manassas Park in 2018, shortly after graduating from college. I met Harmony Bisco before the start of the school year and found her expertise and input invaluable. The time we spent teaching in the same hallway made obvious Harmony's strengths as a leader and educator. Her years of experience outnumbered all but one teacher in our hallway. She was always available to answer questions or help develop a plan to solve issues that may arise throughout the day. Harmony's experience working in our school division and other divisions of similar demographics gives her a boots-on-the-ground perspective as an educator. Harmony has had 2 children graduate from high school and has 1 enrolled in MPES currently. She has also worked as an administrative director of a preschool. These 3 connecting perspectives provide Harmony with the background to present opportunities to the stakeholders that support them in an equitable manner. Harmony is an excellent candidate for the position on the school board. She provides a perspective that is vital to our school system's progress. I believe Harmony has an unmatched desire to effect productive change in our community. She's constantly thinking of ways to help our schools flourish. She develops ideas and action plans that impact our students, teachers, parents, and community members, giving them the power and confidence to better serve our division. I ask that you consider Harmony Bisco for the school board position. The next public comment is from Mr. Gregory Hall in support of Paul Alexander. To whom it may concern, I am an educator with 1 child in the school system and 1 child who graduated from Manassas Park City Schools. My family has lived in Manassas Park 21 years. I am writing to endorse Paul Alexander for reappointment to the school board of Manassas Park City Schools. During his current time on the board, Mr. Alexander has been a positive voice for the Manassas Park students, parents, and staff members. Given the difficult year and challenging time of the pandemic, Mr. Alexander continued to work in the best interest for Manassas Park City Schools. He's a longtime resident who is vested in the city and the school system. Mr. Alexander is open-minded and realizes these are difficult times for schools, students, and staff members. As Manassas Park welcomes new leadership, we need consistency and dedication with the school board. We need someone who will listen, communicate, and collaborate with students, staff, and school leadership. Paul Alexander is that person. I highly recommend Paul Alexander be reappointed to the Manassas Park City School Board. Feel free to contact me with any questions. The next is from Mr. Carlos Vargas in support of Paul Alexander. I would like to speak on behalf of Mr. Alexander tonight, but I am out of state. Can you please send me a video link? Oh, okay. We did not know that. Okay. Well, we will register Mr. Carlos Vargas as having spoken in favor of Paul Alexander. Okay, the next is email support from Josh and Heather Guston in support of Paul Alexander. We wanted to send this email in support of Paul Alexander. We have known Paul for almost 10 years, and he's the kind of parent we need to stay on the school board. He's very invested in MPCS and wants our children to get the best education possible. He's fair, balanced, and trustworthy, and truly represents the community, which is an asset for the school board. We need Paul. His work, he works in unity with other board members to move our schools in the right direction.
Lana said that she did send Carlos the link.
Okay. I don't see Carlos's name up there. Who is caller number 2? Do we know? Laszlo? Okay. We'll continue on. The next is from Mr. Aaron Myers in support of Mr. Paul Alexander. This year, more than any other year, candidates that are school board incumbents need to be placed back on the board. There have been numerous changes to the front office, like a new superintendent, coupled with the return to school from COVID. With all of these changes, it will be vital to keep some continuity on the board to help ease the hurdles and bumps that all of this transition will cause.
There were 2 that asked for links, but I don't think they're up there.
Okay, thank you. But the 2 that asked for links for the formal written record, the 2 who requested links did in fact receive them via email. Thank you, Lena. The next is in support of Mr. Paul Alexander. Comments from Shannon Myers. I'm writing today in support of Paul Alexander for reappointment to MPCS School Board. During a time when we have seen so much change, it is important that we keep some continuity of resources, and our school board is no exception. Mr. Alexander has shown time and again to be a voice of reason, and I have seen him through the televised school board meetings taking pause and ask for clarification and pressure test discussions. Mr. Alexander understands what it means to be on the board and the time commitment required to serve in this role. Please reappoint Mr. Alexander as an advocate for our schools. The next comment is from Mr. Dan Togney in support of Paul Alexander. I'd like to express my full support for Mr. Paul Alexander as he contemplates another term on the school board. Paul is a fully invested member of the community and, in my mind, has had a positive impact on the school system as a current school board member. Please let me know if you have any other questions. The next is in support of Mr. Paul Alexander from Deborah McIntyre Yurkovich. This letter is in support of the reappointment of Paul Alexander to the Manassas Park City School Board. I have had the pleasure of serving on the school board with Mr. Alexander for the entirety of his 3-year term. Mr. Alexander embodies the characteristics needed as a school board member. Even prior to serving on the school board, Mr. Alexander was a staple in the audience of school board meetings. He was an active participant in the community. He would routinely encourage other community members to join him at school board meetings, and he would often be sitting in the audience alone. He has and still does attend and/or watch governing body meetings and community forums to ensure that he's fully informed of all the matters affecting the city. As a parent of 2 students who have been in the school division since kindergarten and a 2-time homeowner in Manassas Park, Mr. Alexander has a vested interest in ensuring the success of the city and Manassas Park City Schools. Despite having children in the division, he has never used his position for personal gain. Mr. Alexander is a true advocate for all children. He has demonstrated that he will make tough decisions that do not personally benefit his family, and he has shown his confidence in the school division for having his children continually enrolled. Mr. Alexander brings a strong business background to the school board, and he is able to approach issues through an analytical lens. On the school board, he has been integral in establishing and supporting communications through social media and streaming technology. He's collaborative, receptive to others' opinions, and willing to take the time to research issues. He understands the true time commitment to serving on the school board, and after 3 years, that commitment is unwavering. The school board greatly benefits from members having different perspectives and bringing different skill sets to the table, and there would be a void on the school board without Mr. Alexander. The next is on behalf of Mr. Tyler Vaughn by Andrene Vaughn. Tyler and I met working together at a movie theater back in 2013. Tyler was working 2 jobs at the time, trying to save enough money to transfer from community college to a 4-year university. We attended the same university and then got married once we were both done with college. After he graduated college with a bachelor's degree in computer science, he went on to teaching. He always talks about valuing our teachers and the next generations to come. Teaching did not support his current life and decided to switch careers, but he has been trying to find his way back into the schools since he left. Tyler has worked in Maryland as a teacher in Charles County. When Tyler worked for Charles County Public Schools, he always stayed after to help the students. He listened to what students were interested in and what they were not interested in. Tyler will offer help wherever needed and even after he stopped working there. Tyler still checks up on the teachers and the students. Tyler always wanted everyone to succeed, so he continues to do research and how to better serve students for college. He coached basketball for the Amateur Athletic Union and baseball at St. Charles High School. He's a great listener. Therefore, he thought coaching will help him hear more about the students' and teachers' concerns. He took notes of everyone's concerns. He repeats at home, "I want to be a part of the change and help people reach their goal." Tyler wants to make sure the teachers are valued and students obtain what they need. Tyler reminds everyone we know how important education is and tries to contribute in many ways. He volunteers at events, tutors, attends town hall meetings in Prince William County when he lived there, and takes his family out to different community events to hear what everyone is doing around him. I recommend my husband without any reservation. Tyler Vaughn will be a great candidate for the Manassas Park School Board. He never feels like he's doing enough for the community, and being a part of the school board will help him get his ideas put in place and contribute more than just listening and empathy. Tyler will always take time out for what he is passionate about. The next is from Ms. Ingrid Emerson on behalf of Harmony Biscoe. I just want to take a moment to recommend Harmony for the school board position. She's a great asset to the Manassas Park community, and she will make a great addition to the board. She's smart, trustworthy, and sincerely cares about children. She is a great neighbor. She's respectful, kind, and reliable. She's also passionate about education, which makes her the ideal candidate for the position. I hope this information is helpful to you as you review and make your choices. The next is from Ms. Shannon Myers on behalf of Harmony Biscoe. My name is Shannon Myers. I reside at 9215 Fairway Court, Manassas Park. I'm writing today in support of Ms. Harmony Biscoe in her candidacy for the Manassas Park School Board. I've gotten to know Harmony not only as an extraordinary teacher, but also as a friend. She's a dedicated teacher in a neighboring school district that is determined to make sure that every child is given the attention they deserve. She has also worked within our school system and knows where we have struggled and or where there is room for improvement, but also for our successes. She's a natural-born leader and would make an excellent addition to the school board. One of Harmony's biggest assets is the enormous amount of energy she brings to any room she enters. She treats everyone fairly and is very level-headed when discussing any and all topics. She is an advocate for teachers, students, and staff. Ms. Biscoe is truly passionate about our school system and the ability to work with the city to ensure a successful communication plan. Please elect Harmony Biscoe. Next is from Mr. Aaron Myers in support of Harmony Biscoe. Ms. Biscoe brings a very unique perspective to the school board. Not only is Ms. Biscoe an educator, she has also worked within Manassas Park in the recent past. She understands what the strengths and the weaknesses are inside the school system. She also has the added benefit of working outside of the Manassas Park school system and can share her experiences of what could work in Manassas Park and what would not. After watching the school board interviews last week, one thing that Ms. Biscoe had said that stuck with me was trying to empower students to help other students. This seems to be some outside-of-the-box thinking and perspective that comes from current or former teachers, something that I would not have thought of, but hearing it makes total sense to me. A school board needs to be made up of a diverse group of people from many different backgrounds, and it seems logical to think that a teacher should surely be at least one of the members. The next comment is from Ms. Sarah Silber in favor of Harmony Biscoe. I think of no other person than Harmony Biscoe to serve on the Manassas Park City School Board. She comes to our system with a vast experience and knowledge. I met Harmony over 4 years ago prior to her moving to Virginia. She wanted to come and meet some of the teachers in the school during her hiring process. Harmony joined the 5th grade team. She was my hallway neighbor and hit the ground running. At the time, she was the second most experienced person in the hall, although she was new to our system. It was refreshing to have an extra set of hands to help with the procedures and tasks that we faced daily. As a veteran teacher of 29 years, teaching in Manassas Park for 19 of those years, I have met many school board members. In my years of teaching, I have only seen a few members around the school and had only two visit my classroom. I was the parent of a student in my room. Excuse me. Harmony has attended many school events as both a parent and a teacher. She has had an advantage to being a valuable asset to our school board because she comes with prior experience. She has taught in our system and she can share the parent perspective as she has a current elementary student and 2 children that are graduates of MPHS. I am confident that Harmony will bring her classroom knowledge and experience while working in Manassas Park and past experience as an administrative director at a preschool to provide equitable and fair opportunities to all stakeholders. As a professional, she's an ideal candidate because she's well-spoken, fair, and has incredible ideas. The policy and plans that she could help create and initiate would be positive attribute to our system. Her ability to work as a team member, take initiative, and keep things in perspective is an asset to our school board. Harmony has experience from both the inside and the outside of our district and is constantly reading and updating her knowledge on how we can improve, how we can be there for the community, students, schools, and parents. Select Harmony, her vision for what we can be, what we can do, and how we can be that school system is what we need. Please consider Harmony Biscoe. Thank you. The next comment is from Mr. Chris Martino on behalf of Stacy Fleming. To whom it may concern, I am writing to recommend Ms. Stacy Fleming to a position on the Manassas Park City School Board. Ms. Fleming has been an outstanding employee and leader here in Prince William County government for many years and has been a pleasure to work with both in her position in our Department of Informational Technology and as the president of the Prince William County Employee Advisory Council. Ms. Fleming was an integral member as we overhauled and replaced the county's classification and compensation structure and our personnel policies. Currently, we are working together on our approach to collective bargaining. I hope you will give Ms. Fleming serious consideration for the important position of school board member. Next is in support of Stacy Fleming from Ms. Jennifer McGuire. I have known Stacy since first meeting her in July 2019 as I became a newly elected member of the Prince William County Employee Advisory Committee. At the time, Stacy was reelected to her second term with the PWC EAC and was subsequently nominated and elected as chairperson. During the time I have worked with Stacy on the PWC EAC, she has been an integral part in representing our fellow employees, organizing and leading our group. This past July, I was nominated and elected vice chair, and Stacy and I have worked closely over the past year to continue to advocate and communicate with our fellow employees about issues that matter to them the most during these challenging times. I feel as though Stacy would be an asset to your work group, as I know her to also be passionate about children and their education, as well as her deep willingness to listen and serve others. If you have any questions or would like more detailed information, please feel free to contact me. The next is from Mr. Walt Sieberling in support of Stacy Fleming. I'm writing in support of Stacy Fleming as a candidate for the school board. Her position as a parent, 20-year Manassas Park resident, mother of 3 middle and high school boys, Prince William County professional, and support of parent active involvement in the growth of maturing young adults offers significant benefits to Manassas Park. Stacy Fleming is my daughter. Although I may be somewhat biased, I have had the opportunity to observe her approach to all of life's challenges. She has lived in the city and worked in the area for over 20 years. Meanwhile, she has been actively involved in her community through work in improving Prince William County's support activities, scouts in developing well-rounded young adults, leading the PWC Employee Advisory Committee, faithfully dedicating time to her church. She has been fully engaged in all aspects of the community and is cognizant of the needs of teachers, staff, and students in support of sound education objectives. As a graduate of the Lake Braddock High School and Virginia Tech, she has the benefit of experience relevant to local educational systems, priorities for education, and support for a sound school system. I strongly recommend Stacy Fleming to the school board. Mr. Bruce Shepard has written in support of Stacy Fleming. I wanted to recommend Stacy Fleming to the school board. I've known her from work for 6 years and consider her intelligent, thoughtful, empathetic, and talented person. She cares about kids and would do a great job. Excuse me. The next letter is from Ms. Rebecca Hogarth in support of Stacy Fleming. I am pleased to write for recommendation for Stacy Fleming to serve on the school board for the city of Manassas Park. I've known Stacy for 11 years, 8 of which she has directly worked for me in Prince William County government in the Department of Information Technology. She has demonstrated strong communication skills and motivation to serve the departments of Prince William County. She quickly adapts to new environments and enthusiastically accepts challenges with a positive attitude. She is well organized and is able to manage her time. Stacy has always been interested in the big picture, understanding how the departments work together. Stacy has expanded her responsibilities from the management of a single enterprise document management system when she was hired to developing and implementing a modernized enterprise-wide strategy for document and records management, consisting of multiple complementary platforms. For the past 3 years, Stacy has served as the president of the Employers Advisory Council, representing the interests of PWC employees, and she served as a committee member for a year prior to being elected president. She quickly established a rapport with the county executive and other members of the senior leadership team. She has excelled and been an effective leader in this role, a steadfast voice for all employees through unprecedented changes, including a county-wide classification and compensation analysis and the COVID-19 pandemic. Personally, I've always known Stacy to be a dedicated mother who stays involved with her children's school and activities, but her commitment extends beyond her own children, as evidenced by her active participation in her church and community. Her work ethic and dedication are unmatched by most. She's thoughtful and smart and will bring fresh perspective to the school board. I'm a mom. I would be thrilled to have Stacy on the board in my school district. So I highly recommend Stacy Fleming for Manassas Park School Board. It's always very heartwarming to see all of the comments that come in from applicant supporters. It's just I can't say any more than it's heartwarming. So with that, there are no further comments. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained, motion carries. The public hearing is now closed. Moving on to and actually this was maybe half the comments we had last year. We had a ton of them last year too. So our second public hearing is for an ordinance change based upon the legislation that Delegate Rome carried for us in the General Assembly. I declare the public hearing open. City Attorney.
Yes, Mayor, I drafted this up based upon direction from the governing body. Delegate Rome sponsored this, and we worked with many groups throughout the state, motor vehicle boards and such, to try to craft something that was acceptable to them as well as to the city. What we ended up with was essentially a requirement that we have to first establish or designate a residence district for increased fines pursuant to state code, which is a $200 increased fine. We already have that in city code. It's in 2438 of the city code that allows us to do that. We haven't done that yet. A residence district is essentially an area that has 75% or more of the uses are for residents within 300 feet along the frontage, and it has to be property abutting the road. So when you look at the areas that we have problems with, typically in this case here, this was really put forth because we had test driving going on along Manassas Drive up there in the Blooms Crossing area. That area clearly qualifies as a residence district, but the problem is once you get closer down to Andrew, and between Andrew and say Euclid Avenue, there's a lot of areas in there that don't necessarily meet the qualifications. So the governing body with the city manager is going to have to dedicate or determine which ones are going to be designated as those increased fine areas. Now, I know the police department has certain areas that have speeding. That's a problem. We get cut through traffic in the city a lot on the west side as well. So there's probably going to be areas along Manassas Drive, both on the east and west side. Once we establish a residence district, then if you also pass this ordinance that we have before you tonight, that would automatically become a no test driving area as well. Okay, and then the city's required then to go ahead and post signs up showing that area, and then also notify the motor vehicle dealerships within the city where those areas are. Unfortunately, this doesn't apply to dealers outside the city limits yet. So if this is effective in the city, then maybe we can get a change at the state level to allow us to do it for areas that adjoin the city. Any questions?
Okay, thank you. Let's start with, so we don't forget Preston's at home. Vice Mayor Banks, do you have comments or questions?
Mayor, I wonder if there's anyone that wants to speak on it first, though.
Well, usually we take governing body questions.
We can do it however you want to do it.
Yeah, well, that's what we traditionally do, Dean. We take the governing body questions, and then sometimes our questions spark questions from folks in the audience. Okay, Vice Mayor Banks?
No questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Hampton?
The one question I have is once we build the downtown, will that change? Will it be within the parameters?
Well, so the requirement is you have to take a 300 foot frontage along Manassas Drive. So right now, technically right across the street, that area does qualify, and we could probably take this little piece right here in downtown and declare it as a residence district for increased fines. But as soon as you get right past the city center area here, we no longer have that 300-foot requirement. And between Andrew Drive and the railroad track, or actually Andrew Drive and Building B over here, that wouldn't qualify either. So we have like this little block area, which doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Okay.
So that's the problem. But we do have other other ways to slow traffic in the city center area. There's traffic calming measures that were specifically put into place. Now, it doesn't keep people from going past 25, but it probably keeps them from going 45.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Javed?
The question about designated corporate limits, so we can put signage up at those designated areas so they know where the corporate limits end?
Not the corporate limits. The corporate limits are the area within the corporate limits of the city. We can only designate roads or residence districts in the city's corporate limits that are for increased fines. We can't do something in Prince William or Manassas.
No, well, I'm saying, are we going to tell the businesses this is where it stops?
There's going to be signs on the roads themselves where the increased fines begin.
Okay.
So as soon as you turn right off of Signal View Drive onto Manassas Drive, there would be a sign there saying enhanced fines, $200 for speeding, and then there would be, a sign, no test driving, right below that.
So there'll be a sign for no test driving?
Right.
Okay.
And then the same would be, obviously if we did something on the west side, as soon as you turned left on Manassas Drive, probably right when you got to Matthew, probably something there would say.
The other question was in regards to, I guess the coronavirus, pandemic, a lot of businesses changed the way they handle customers now. So there's a lot of businesses like Carvana, Cars.com, they're delivering cars to residents. Now, with those type of businesses, this will restrict them from test driving in any residential streets. Right?
Not any residential streets, just designated residential. And we have to notify them ahead of time. So what happens if somebody gets pulled over for a traffic infraction in one of these districts, these designated districts, and they're test driving, and then we know that because they're going to have dealer tags on it. Mm-hmm. We notify the state board, and the state board then considers whether to, the State Motor Vehicle Board, they determine whether or not to use that for increased fines. We don't fine them as a city. We just notify the board. So the board would take all that into consideration.
Well, I'm just trying to see if I get a car delivered to my house, then I can't test drive it? If it's located in that...
No, so there is a caveat. If you read the code section, it says that if you are bringing the car home and you're allowed to bring the car home by the dealer, then you can go to and from your home. Okay. So there wouldn't be the there wouldn't be the dealer getting in trouble for that, but they'd still get the enhanced fine. The driver would get the enhanced fine, the extra $200. It's just the dealer wouldn't get in trouble because they allowed him to take it home. I guess that's the way we'd have to interpret that.
Yeah. And then my last question is in regards to the dealer. I guess they would have to change their whole business because, the thing is, like, when you individuals test drive, there's no representative usually from the dealer inside that car.
Well, there used to be, but COVID, they stopped doing that. And so now that we're all getting vaccinated and the restrictions are being lifted, they're probably going to have someone back in there. So this is probably a moot point because they're just not going to allow it to happen. But the key is we will still have the enhanced fines. So if someone's speeding, and that's for anybody, not just people test driving motor vehicles.
I'm just saying if the individual gets gets in trouble for violation, then the dealer gets in trouble as well.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the dealer's responsibility.
I'm assuming that then the dealer should have somebody in that car with the driver.
It'd be in their best interest, but they're only required to notify the test driver or the prospective buyer that they can't go into those areas, and they just have to show them where it is. Yeah. So they could conceivably go, most of them are right here across the street. They could come out, turn left on Euclid, and go out to Liberia and test drive it. They just wouldn't be able to go down to residential areas.
And the dealer's fine as long as he notifies the driver, has the driver sign a paper.
Exactly. If the dealer notifies the driver and the driver still does it, then the dealer's off the hook.
Mm-hmm. I see.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Do you have any?
No, that's it. That was my best.
I don't have any questions. Councilmember Mensing?
So just to clarify, going forward, we're going to look over the city on both sides and designate the residential areas.
Right.
And certainly I'd want your all's input in how you want the evaluation to occur. What information would you want me to make the decision? Would you want to be informed kind of on police data, on ticketing? How would you want to designate that? I certainly want to hear from you on what approach you want to take for that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Moore?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Maya?
No questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone signed up to make public comment?
I don't think so. Not on this
Okay,
document.
is there anyone who is not signed up but would still like to make public comment on this issue? Okay, seeing none and hearing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on, we have no recognition. Moving on to proclamation. The next item is a proclamation proclaiming June as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Questioning Pride Month in Manassas Park. Equality Prince William has provided a proclamation to the city each year, and we thank you very much for that. And we thank you for all the good work that you do in the community on behalf of equality. I'm very happy to say that our city has always been ahead of the curve, so to speak, on these issues. And looking out, I see that we have some folks with us this evening. We have members of Equality Prince William and allies with us tonight, and we want to say welcome, everyone. I would like to also recognize Councilmember Tom Asina. Would you stand up, Tom? He's a council member over in Manassas City. Welcome, Tom. And we also have with us Mr. Jim O'Connor, who is the president of Equality Prince William. There's Jim. Thank you, Jim. And Jim will be asking you to come to the podium to say a few words after we've passed the proclamation. Okay, the proclamation reads, whereas the city of Manassas Park is a welcoming community and an exceptional place to live, learn, work, play, and raise a family, and whereas Manassas Park recognizes the importance of equality and freedom, and whereas the nation was founded upon and is guided by a set of principles that includes that every person has been created equal, that each has rights to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and that each shall be accorded the full recognition and protection of law. And whereas the city of Manassas Park's lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning LGBTQ communities are a vital part of all fields and professions and contribute to a stronger community. And whereas the city of Manassas Park is dedicated to fostering acceptance of all its citizens and preventing discrimination and bullying based on sexual orientation and gender identity. And whereas Manassas Park is strengthened by and thrives upon the rich diversity of ethnic, cultural, racial, gender, and sexual identities of its residents, all of which contribute to the vibrant character of our city. And whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, recognizes that LGBTQ teens are at higher risk to be victims of violence and have increased suicide rates. And whereas it is imperative that young people in the community, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity, feel valued, safe, empowered, and supported by their peers, educators, and community leaders. Now, therefore, I, Jeanette Rischel, Mayor of the City of Manassas Park, and on behalf of the Manassas Park City Council, Manassas Park governing body, hereby proclaim and recognize June 2021 as Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender, and Questioning LGBTQ Pride Month in the city of Manassas Park, and urge citizens to recognize the contributions made by members of the LGBTQ community and to actively promote the principles of equality and liberty. Do we have a motion to pass the proclamation?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Thank you.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. It passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Jim, would you like to come to the podium?
So what a year, huh? Then you've probably heard that before.
You have to go give us the.
Oh, okay. I'll give it to you.
Jim, Councilmember Moore will come up and present you with the proclamation.
Also, before I do that, Jim, I just also want to recognize our former council member, Donald Shoemaker, who's in the audience. I appreciate his presence and work with our community. Thank you, Donald.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
You got closed. Come on, closed. That's it. That's it. And we can see you smiling.
So everything kind of ground to a halt about 15 months ago. And yet, in June of 2020, you, the governing body, still found time to recognize the LGBTQ plus community by declaring June of 2020 to be Pride Month. And now tonight, for the 5th year in a row, the fine city of Manassas Park has once again declared June 2021 to be LGBTQ plus Pride Month. And that is music to my ears, as well as the members of Equality Prince William and many of our allies. Today's Washington Post profiles a guy by the name of Rufus Gifford, former ambassador to Denmark and President Biden's pick to be the next chief of protocol, and he's gay. As is the current Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. But at the same time, a teacher in Loudoun County has been placed on administrative leave over his public denouncing of students' transgender rights. And while I'm mentioning what the LGBTQ plus community is up against, the Virginia Constitution still bans same-sex marriage, although the first of 3 steps to revoke that clause has been taken earlier this year. So if you're not familiar with it, it has to pass the General Assembly, again, and then go to a vote. So clearly the fight for equal rights for all citizens is not over. The Manassas Park Pride Proclamation is an example of how we are slowly building a coalition to achieve those rights. There'll still be no Capitol Pride this year because we have a ways to go to return to normal. But Equality Prince William has once again started up our participation in the VDOT Adopt a Highway program with our first trash pickup in more than a year and a half this past weekend, keeping the McCourt building sparkling because that's our section of the road. And our first happy hour in a long time happens tomorrow night right here in Manassas Park at Preston's Pub. So come on out and help us kick off Pride Month right here in your own backyard. You can find all the details of our activities by going to equalityprincewilliam.org, where you will probably notice in the fine print that EPW is planning its first ever Pride Festival this coming October. So we hope to see you there, it'll be held at the Harris Pavilion in the city of Manassas. So once again, on behalf of the board and members of Equality Prince William and everyone who believes that all are equal and all should be treated accordingly, I thank the governing body of Manassas Park for honoring us with this proclamation.
Thank you very much, Jim. We invite everyone to stay with us and enjoy the rest of the meeting, but we understand if you have things to do.
I hear enough of it already.
I'm sure.
To your own work. Okay. Thank you for having us.
Good night, all. Okay, moving on to 5A. The next item is Community Maintenance Working Group. A few months ago, Councilmember Hampton brought this forward for consideration since we're now approaching the passage of FY22 budget. And since the budget contains 2 part-time positions for code enforcement, now seemed like a very appropriate time to bring this back for reconsideration. So please proceed.
Yep. So first, I'll ask you all just kind of hold your questions to the very end because I might answer your questions. And I promised Dean I'd keep it underneath 10 minutes.
All right.
You want me to bring up your slides?
If you wouldn't mind, so the 3 folks at home could see. So, as you remember, as Jeanette mentioned back in February, I brought up the Community Maintenance Working Group, or you can call it Community Beautification Working Group. And at that time, we tabled it. In those 6 months, things have changed a little bit. There is a need, once again, with the increase in code enforcement staff, as well as certain events in the city, there's a need to dig into and come up with some preventive measures. As far as those needs, we now have 6 abandoned homes. I know it says 5, but this morning I found out of another one. This includes the one that was demolished back in April. We've, about a month ago, staff members, 2 city residents, and myself, we spent a total of 15 hours. It was about 3 hours, and you multiply that by the people walking around the city, looking at nine streets, just kind of get a feel for the situation. And then there's been copious amounts of litter collection. Poor Laszlo, I think probably Thursday, there's an email from me because I get an email from a resident or I see something where people have put stuff out for trash and has been picked up for whatever reason. In addition to that, residents are now, for the past 2 months, go for a week and they go out and they collect trash. And some of these pictures that we have here kind of give you an idea of the situation. Sorry, Laszlo, I don't really stick to So this is by far the worst one. That was in January. That was about a month ago. And then if you go to the next page, that was Thursday. And that was taken from the next door neighbor's yard, and it smells. It smells like the worst basement ever. The little what do you call it, the little scooter, that belongs to a 9-year-old. That gives you an idea of how big the weeds are. And it doesn't really show very well, but that back window is now hanging askew, and there's large gaping holes, and that's the worst of them all. That's the unattended land that we dealt with last month. To give you an idea of how tall that grass is, those dogs come up to my waist, and thankfully that got rectified. And then that's the litter. We've had people go out. We've had one resident go out, and she and her son found a tire over on Railroad Drive. That hole right there is, I believe, was on West Carondelet, and it was right next to the bus stop. And Public Works was kind enough to go in there and take the trash out of the hole and fill it up. We had one resident with her children take a 30-gallon trash bag full of trash in one day, plus all the assorted trash. And over there somewhere is a picture of a really cute but abandoned unicorn. That's the one found on the side of the road. And there's other odds and ends that we've seen happen throughout the year, including some trash pickup that we had to do a couple of weeks ago at the parks. According to the young man there, the kids just leave trash there. And as well, we had the incident for months where a bike was attached to a pole on Manassas Drive, and that's doesn't look good for the city. And of course, shoes hanging from wires. And I thank the city's Public Works for going out there and tackling some of that. So I come to you today with a request. And the request is the approval of a creation of a 12-month community maintenance or beautification working group. What this working group is not, it is not a code enforcement going out there and let's go find it. Think of it as a idea generation group, so that where you've got city staff doing stuff on the back end, responding to things that are submitted. This is on the front end. Let's take a look at how did we get this way? Why do we have all this trash? Why is these houses abandoned? Is there some sort of common theme? Do we need to do education? What are other jurisdictions doing that we can use here? And if you kind of go over to the next page over here, in addition to all of that, it helps present the city in a really good light for residents as well as visitors that come driving through the city. Their first impression are our streets. And indirectly, it does help with stormwater management, because it kind of keeps, especially with the litter, it keeps all that junk from getting down in there and then eating up our credits. So, like I said, the goal of it is generating ideas. And so we'll talk a little bit here in a moment about how we'll go about it. But the proposed working group structure, the key is to limit it at 5 people, no more than 5 people. Of course, myself, hopefully I would like to get another city council member in there to kind of share the wealth. If possible, 2 Manassas Park residents with 1 from the west side, since the majority of the issues do come from the west side, and then engage Laszlo or someone that he appoints. And it's up to Laszlo to determine his bandwidth. If he wants to attend every meeting, that's great. If he wants me just to be that conduit, I'm happy to do that. That's what I do with my clients.
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
Sorry. And this is why Dean tells us to get rid of these things when we sit in the closed meetings. So that's a conversation that if you pass this, that I'll end up having with Laszlo to determine exactly how he wants to work with us. I will tell you, behind the scenes, he and Public Works have been tackling these issues. So if we go over to that page right there, that looks like a funnel, right? So, and that's on purpose. And you think about, we're starting at the top and working our way down. So as we go down, as we move our way down, we actually know what we're doing. So in project management, it's called the cone of uncertainty. At the top, you really don't, you have this big wide thing, and as you work your way down, you come up with the actual problem and the solution. So we're going to start off with initiate, which is where we are tonight. And that's going to happen now we're going to call it month 1. And, in initiate, you identify the high level issues, which the high level issues is we've seen an increase in abandoned homes. We've seen an increase in litter. We've also seen an increase or we should say a notification or realizing there's all these different code infractions, everything from cars in the yard to when we were out walking around, we actually saw appliances on people's front porches. I think the best one we saw was a car that had a strap attached to a tree, and the car had expired tags and expired stickers. So, and other things like boats in the yard and things of that nature. And then if you say yes to this initiative tonight, then we move into the planning section, which was where we'll spend the bulk of the time. And that's 1 to 8 months of the 12-month time frame. And in that planning session, that's where we'll refine the group details, including the meeting cadence, how often we'll come in here and brief the governing body, as well as defining what is short-term, near-term, and far-term, with the concept of short-term, which however we define that in the matter of months or years, knowing that's got to be pretty much low to no cost because of our budgets, with the outer years that we can plan for down the road as the city generates more revenue and we get in a better situation. Also in the planning part, we'll identify the group members, and then we'll start doing our research, developing the recommendations, looking at existing projects that are in other jurisdiction, lessons learned, best practices, all that good stuff, and develop that initial set of recommendations that we can present to the governing body. An example of one of these recommendations is Keep Virginia Beautiful. They actually have grants for cities, for parks, for things like community beautification, litter prevention, picking up the cigarette butts. I don't know if that's still a problem. I don't know. But those are some other things that we could possibly look at. And then after we get done with the planning period and we've developed those set of recommendations to present to the governing body, then we'd move into launch, where we would get the governing body's approval on whatever set of recommendations the governing body feels is appropriate. And we do it exactly that. We would actually do like a test drive of whichever ones were approved, and brief the governing body at the intervals, and then we would go into monitor and adjust after we launch it and find out what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be adjusted, creating lessons learned, and even doing more research if we need to. And so the monitor and adjust, of course, would probably be months 9 through 11. And then we would get down to, and of course in monitor and adjusting, all throughout the time we're briefing the city council and the residents. And then months 12, we get down to close, where we provide the final recommendations, what we did, what's near term, long term. And remember, the near term and the long term is for once the city gets we get around the next budget, we can put some money in there. We have a better idea of what the real problems are, what the real issues are, what's driving it. And then at that point, we attain the governing body's approval to either retire the program or retire the working group, put this plan in wherever we keep them around here for future use, or if need be, continue it for a short amount of time. So with that, hopefully I answered some of your questions, but at this point I'll open it up to your questions.
You answered my question. I was going to ask you if it was temporary, because it was 12 months and I wondered what your intentions were.
Right.
Okay. I think this could really be a positive thing. It would help communication between residents and the city. There are things that we're all not aware of. There are things that the governing body and the city are not aware of. There's things that residents are not aware of. So we all have challenges, and I think it's this could only improve communication.
Right. And some of the things that we might also look at, and this came across my email earlier this week, is that we do have situations where we have seniors that have code infractions, but they have them because they don't have either the physical or the monetary means to address it. Right. So what do we do about that? And I think Laszlo knows he knows there's an email out to him about it, and I'll be following up with it with one of the situations. But what do we do? I honestly don't know, other than go bother Laszlo. And that's not the right word, but go and take some of Laszlo's time to figure that out so I can go back to an individual or individuals in this situation and provide them with some sort of solution.
Were you thinking of like a volunteer force?
That was possibly could be one. I don't know. I don't know what social services has or how they get involved in that. I don't know the whole. I'm just at the very beginning of understanding the situation.
To investigate.
Right.
I see. Well, let's start with Preston so we don't forget about him. Vice Mayor Banks, do you have any questions?
Thanks, Laura, for your presentation. So my question is, in terms of representation, so you wanted, let me get this right, 2 council members on the working group?
I would love to have another council member, but if no council member has the bandwidth to participate, then it'll just be me, but I'd really rather have 2 of us on there.
Okay. And 2 residents, 1 from each side?
Correct. Right. 1 from the west side and 1 from, I don't know, with central or the east side.
Okay. My concern is, I guess this has to be made public since it's a working group for the city. So in terms of information, anything being presented and all, it has to be publicly available on even the meetings, right?
Yeah. And so as part of the planning part is that the group, once we get everybody on board, we'll figure out the best time and date and location to meet. And keep in mind, our residents do work, including I work. So it might be at nights, it might be at weekends, but it will be made available. If people want to drop by, if people want to give insight, by all means, yes. And as far as making public, that's where the briefings in the city council meetings come into play.
Okay. And I'm thinking even like for email accounts, we may need to set up an email account for the other 2 members, the residents.
Well, I think we do that now with all of our other boards, do we not?
Not all of them.
Not all of them?
How to make this work.
Well, I'm sure the logistics I can easily work out with Laszlo or the IT folks.
Yeah. And I agree. I think this is great for communication. I get calls from residents on both sides. So I think it's good for communication and to serve as a conduit for the city of these needs. And it's overall to win. Like you said, it's going to improve the look of the city for people who drive by and for the citizens who live here.
Right.
So I'm in support of it. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.
Thanks, Preston. Councilmember Amaya, comments, questions?
You might not have the answer to the first one, but how often do you think they're going to be meeting?
I honestly don't know, Yessie, until we get in together. The whole committee gets in together and figures that out. Typically, in something like this, at the very beginning, you tend to meet a little bit more often. And then as you have a better idea of what's going on, you meet a little bit less often. But the frequency, it would be improper for me right now to kind of guess.
Okay, and then how would you pick the members? Like, how would you pick the residents and how would you pick the council members?
So a couple of ideas. One, we would reach out to those that have been very vocal on social media. They were vocal, so let's give them an opportunity. The second one is just like we do now. We put something out through the different channels available through the city, the website, the TV station, however else we put that out there. As far as deciding, that would probably be up to myself and the other city council member.
Okay, I think that's it for now.
Can I just chime in real quick? If it's going to be, if this is going to be a governing body working group, then it probably should be brought back to the governing body to designate the membership.
Okay, we can easily do that.
And it'll be considered a public body under FOIA as well. So if this goes forward, I'd like to meet with at the first meeting to kind of explain FOIA to everybody, so we don't get ourselves in trouble.
Clarify too, I don't think I have to be listed as a member because the city manager is authorized to be participate
Right,
in all work.
you can do everything, yep.
Okay. So if you want another slot for a resident, because I'm already part of every
Right.
board.
So maybe central, west, and east.
Yeah, we could do that.
That
I mean,
makes
I better
sense.
take notes.
Yessie, do you have a follow-up?
No, for now, that's
Okay.
it.
Councilmember Moore?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Laura, for the presentation. It's very wonderful. How would the committee interact with city staff, like the new code enforcement people that we're bringing on?
Right, just like, it'd be just like we do now. Laszlo is who we direct through unless he gives me authority, which I don't think would be a wise idea. I would just go through Laszlo or someone else that he appoints.
Well, can we clarify? Because I think.
Yeah, that would need to be clarified.
Said direct, so I wasn't thinking this group would be directing my activity. I think you guys are the ones who direct my activities.
Correct.
So I just wanted to clarify that.
I think she meant direct her the findings to you to determine what to
Questions.
do with them.
Yeah, not tell you what to do. No, I do that enough for my own job, my day job. I don't need to manage any more people.
So it's not clear to me, again, how this committee would interact with city staff.
Yeah.
Would they be at the beck and call of city staff, or would they work through you, since you control all city staff? How will it work?
I was thinking just we do like we do now. We direct everything through Laszlo.
Okay.
I mean, it's improper for me or any of us to go to any city employee directly without Laszlo's approval or knowledge.
Yeah. So, Laura, how many hours do you envision city staff taking per week, per month, however you want to define it, like making presentations, making reports, pulling together information for the committee?
Right. So I'm not asking them to make presentations. At the most, we're going to ask them just to pull some, if they can dig through the information to see what we've done in the past. And as far, and once again, it kind of goes back to, I just don't know just yet. We won't know until we refine what our problem is, refine what the recommendations are. When we have those recommendations, then I can work with Laszlo to come with a LOE, a level of effort.
It would also seem to me that either the Public Works Director or our city attorney would have to be involved, since they're very familiar with the codes and what the codes currently are. Do you envision those individuals being ex officio, being part of the?
I would imagine. I mean, so for the way I was envisioning it, and kind of once again going back to, we don't interact directly with those city staff. Come back with a list of questions or bits of information and route that to them by way of Laszlo. And I mean, unless I'm told otherwise, but that's how I envision doing it.
I'm available if anyone has a question and they just want to make sure they're doing things the right way. They can just call me. So I don't have a problem with that. So it wouldn't be a formal
depth in that to me. It seems like you would have to do research into the codes that exist in the city.
Right. So I was speaking with Laura today about this, and I agree that certainly if we're going to be amending code, that I would be heavily involved. But what I understand is she's going to and looking at best practices elsewhere to see how they can be used in the city. Gotcha. Bring them to the governing body, and if you guys want to do that, that's where I would get involved with the actual implementation of the code changes. But I'm talking about, if she had a question about some provision of the code she didn't know who to come to, I'm available.
Great.
And just pick up the phone.
And that's what I do now anyhow.
Yeah, we all do. We all call
Right.
Dean.
There was a whole long conversation today about something in the code with Dean.
Yes.
In addition to this. So we're not looking at amending the code. We're looking at simple things like adopt a street. Other jurisdictions do that. We used to do that here. These simple little lifts that we can do, that we can involve the citizens, especially the citizens that feel frustrated because they feel nothing's been done. And also, as the mayor said, they also serve as ambassadors to the other citizens. So someone calls and complains or says, hey, Bob, or hey, Shelley, or whoever, I've been noticing right there in that one part of the street, every day there seems to be more and more trash there. Well, let me tell you what we're doing about it. So it takes the pressure off the city staff. And once again, your best advocate is your citizens, and especially if you get them involved. Those are your best stakeholders.
Yes.
And they'll make sure it works.
Thank you, Laura. I have
welcome.
just one last
Yeah.
question, Madam Mayor, and that's to our city manager. We had talked about some days or months ago about hiring a consultant to help create and craft code that will help us. So how would that work, interact with this committee and what they'll be doing, and where do you see the overlap, or how do you see the two working together?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, because this is, it depends on the scope of work, right? And what exactly the committee's going to be doing, because tonight I'm actually presenting to you an agenda item for exactly what was described there. So staff is we're moving already, right? So last 4 years I've been very focused on finances and economics, and we got a lot more to do on economics, believe me. We're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. There's a lot of work to do there, but I know over the last 12 months, as I laid out in the memo about the code enforcement, legal, code amendments and moving to a ticketing system. Well, the last 12 months we've heard from the residents, not just about taxes, but also about overall community and maintenance and parking. Parking was the first thing. So we jumped on parking, and police have a very, very, a lot bigger staff than the development services division. So guess what they did? They went after parking pretty hard and issued over 4,000 tickets, parking violations 1 year, in response to our residents. So it's not like we haven't acted. And then we held the town hall in the fall.
Yeah.
I attached that presentation just for background, where I laid out options. So we're always going to take action when something becomes a priority and you all direct us to focus on it. We will. And it doesn't mean we're going to do things overnight, because we have a lot of things to do. And it's not like we're police where they're equipped to kind of take these things on. And even with police, they needed help. So we went ahead. The previous governing body in the budget amendment, they did the parking enforcement officer,
Right.
the administrative rep to help with collections, and then you all voted on the parking enforcement vehicle and the technology to enable more effective. So we are taking actions. We were even for parking before your time, we had to first get the software system built in so we could even do it. It was called Tyler Encode. So that implementation occurred with the previous IT project manager, along with all the ERP stuff that we had to do that time. We got that implemented just as he left. So that was kind of step one, so we could ramp up parking enforcement. So that's going to be the same thing with code enforcement. I have in the budget presentation, I presented the part-time additional code enforcement support. It doesn't stop there, right? We're going to do more, but we're going to start kind of ramping up. It's just, we're starting at a lower point with code enforcement. We don't have the same kind of resources to tackle. But again, with parking, we started really 2 years ago. Right, and we've kind of borne fruit with that. The same vision's here. So I brought to you forward again another staff-initiated issue tonight, which was presented back. I think it was page 75 of your packet, where I listed those 12 options. It was option 10 and 12 specifically talked about code amendments, and that's what I'm bringing forward to you tonight as well to tackle that. So staff is working on these issues. Now I've started engaging with my team every 2 weeks. We're going over a spreadsheet of all the different issues as well. This is becoming, per the retreat, this is clearly becoming a bigger priority. I just need time, right? We've come through a lot over the last few years, and I think we've made significant progress. There's still a lot more to do, but certainly we want to continue this staff effort. If this committee is going to help with research on what other jurisdictions are doing, that's very helpful. If they're going to help on communicating to our residents, that's also very helpful. Again, if they're going to start getting into strategy on how we do this, I keep that relationship with you all, the governing body. Not to say I don't also, engage with that group about kind of what we're working on, but I like to have that relationship with you all still to brief you all on the overall city strategy of what we're taking to, or what we're doing to address the code enforcement issues. Doesn't mean I can't engage with that committee, but I think we need to clearly, if this becomes a governing body group, it has to be adopted via resolution. Is that correct, King?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd recommend we lay out a clear governing body scope of work of what you want them all to do and how that aligns with city staff, what your all's expectations, because that'd be clear to me, so I understand exactly what it is you all want from this group, how you want me to interact with them as well, and for us to continue on what we're doing as well as a staff to ramp up this. But certainly public education is going to be a big one. Doing the research, that would be very helpful as well. But certainly I'm hoping that tonight you all will agree to allow me to contract out the code amendment components, and the attorney has agreed to join us this Thursday if approved for the enforcement committee meeting that Chris Himes chairs. That brings in all the different elements, not just code enforcement, zoning, but also the fire marshal, Debbie for business license enforcement as well. It's a comprehensive staff committee that's involved in that, and the attorney's going to come in and start working with us, identify those key code sections, and priority number one, of course, identifying, and Mickey's working on those items that we think right now our zoning administrator can move more towards a ticketing process, just like police were able to ramp up parking enforcement with massive ticketing. That's the goal for this as well, but we want to evaluate that. So again, we're going still. We're still moving forward with everything. It may not be as fast as as many would like, but we are moving on these items. And so I'd appreciate, again, if you all kind of clearly delineate what their scope of work will be and how they interact, what the expectation is for the interactions with staff, what we're doing. And again, I'd still request that I keep that relationship with you all in terms of overarching strategy for code enforcement.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. That sounds very promising. I love the idea of the education piece and the communication piece. And so I think the resolution is going to be critical. So when that's before us, I'll probably comment even further at that point. But thank you, Laura. Appreciate that.
Follow up on what Councilmember Moore said, was talking about. This will be primarily research.
Right.
And you won't be expecting staff to do a whole lot of okay.
No,
thank you.
other than maybe some historical knowledge.
Okay.
You know,
or some data now and then.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we're not going, the idea is to not to supplement, but to be not even an extension. Augment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Gotcha.
Because they don't have time to go and reach out.
Right.
They're keeping the city running.
Yeah.
The citizens can have some time, and they already are looking at certain associations and organizations just on their own. So why don't we just take those efforts, marshal that energy, and direct it into a central location?
Councilmember Mensing.
Yeah, a couple questions. If you see a property that has a violation, are you going to be like knocking on their door, reaching out to them?
No. So that goes back to what I said at the beginning, which is we are not going to do code enforcement, code picking out. We're primarily trying to figure out, for example, why does the issue with chickens keep coming up? Do we need to have like a no chicken zone sign up?
Chickens.
Yeah.
You getting chickens?
I'd love to.
Like my fresh eggs.
Kids would too. Okay.
Well, no, it is because it brings other things. It brings chicken hawks.
Yes.
I'm sure there are such a thing as a chicken hawk. And there's foxes.
Yeah.
And
rats. My neighbor was one of the ones that code enforcement went out, and I had got rats because they're attracted to the chicken feed and chicken feces.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
And then I think, Madam Mayor, you even mentioned that some of the chicken waste washes into the water.
Well, yes, it would be MS4 problems then.
Yeah.
Just my last, I like the idea of having like the 3 residents, one from each section, the 3 sections, like a resident from each. And I also think it would be a really good idea to make it public, not just the vocal ones on Facebook, because there are a lot of people who are impassioned who don't speak out on Facebook. So,
I know they've reached out to me, the ones that are not as vocal on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and as long as we're appointing the members and it's a public. Yeah.
What would our metrics be to appoint people? I mean, if we're going to have to do this, what?
More than just having a pulse.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, well, I mean, just like any other body, look at it, see who seems...
Turn in their resume and why they want to do it. And
sure. Just basically why you want to do it.
Right.
Makes sense.
Cover letter.
It doesn't necessarily have to be a resume.
No, for something like this, they're not making decisions like a school board or a board of zoning appeals. I think you're right. Just a why do you want to do this?
Where they live, how long they've been here.
Right. Why do they care?
Yeah.
What's driving them?
They're like,
is it because there's a rooster?
Crazy. We won't.
Right.
That one.
Do you like chickens?
Yeah.
And do you like chickens? I'm sorry.
Yeah. Go ahead, Laszlo.
I would recommend that we have a large population of non-English speakers as well. And if the goal of the committee is to find out why, I think they're going to be able to need to understand that community as well and engage with them. So I'd recommend at least appointing a member from that community as well.
Okay.
Bad Spanish will not work, believe me.
Yeah. Do you have a follow-up?
Nope, that's everything. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Javed.
Yeah, a question about, I guess, the the working group, why not just have it like open to the public?
Well, because
You know, like the neighborhood watch. Everybody from community can come. There's a leader that kind of just sets the agenda. Why like a limited group?
because in project management and when you're dealing with teams, the larger the team is, the less action you get. So you want a small group, preferably people of different mindsets, because the last thing you want is groupthink, with different mindsets to do the research and come back and have that discussion. If you have, there's different schools of thought. There's one that says in Agile, your team is no more than 6. Anything more than 6, forget about it, you're not gonna get anything done. I picked 5 because it's an uneven number.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. I mean, I saw, the pictures from the Facebook and all the trash people picking up, and it'd be good to have the research needed to help the staff.
Plus, if we formalize this, then that can give the, not the ammunition, but it gives our grant people the resources to go after grants like the one that I found, or research it.
Right. Or like they adopt a block street program.
Right. And I don't know if any of this stuff even we get credits for the MS4.
Yeah. My only concern is that I guess in the resolution or in some verbiage, we just got to make it clear that the group or the community doesn't approach individuals or go on private property, thinking that we're here as a working group in behalf of the city. Why is the grass not cut?
Right. And as I mentioned earlier, that's not the intent. We're not out doing code enforcement.
Okay.
We're out doing research, education. It is an idea generation group, including and if we, if it works out well, even if we can launch just one simple little idea, whether that's a sign at the park or figuring out why the kids keep leaving the trash everywhere. Is it that the trash can's too far, or is it just children being children?
Yeah. And then as I guess the flow, like a flow chart, it'll be just like the working group down to Laszlo down to the court enforcer, and then court enforcer kind of.
Well, I would think it would probably be something like this. It'd be dotted line, meaning it's just dotted line. So there's governing body, and then I forget where Laszlo's right here. So this is over here, so a dotted line. Sorry, I don't draw well.
Okay. I mean, that's all the questions I have. I mean, I think it's a good idea. Get some research.
And we have to flush it out. But everything starts with an idea, and we have plenty of brain power around here to flush it out.
Okay. Well, let's take the pulse of the governing body. You're a yes?
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with this.
Okay.
Contingent on the resolution, I guess.
Well, right, but this is a yes to
move forward. Right.
To empower Dean and Laszlo.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what is yes? Okay.
You're expecting us to craft the resolution?
Well, Dean would be.
Well, okay. I mean, I would be the final. Yeah, I'd do the final edit.
We would want it to be legal, so you're city attorney and. Right.
So I'm assuming this would be just, we're calling it a working group. It'd be a committee of the governing body to report back ideas.
You want me to do a rough draft?
Yeah, and I can show you, or what we've used in the past.
Yes,
and
please.
So the key things are, how long, what's its purpose, how long it's going to last, who the membership is.
Like a project charter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so we put that into a resolution, and then that basically becomes the charter of the committee.
I'm happy to do a first draft, and then you can make it all legal and whatnot.
Okay.
Cool. That sounds good. Okay. Councilmember Moore?
Yes.
Okay. And Councilmember Amaya? Vice Mayor Banks, did I hear that you were in favor also?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous. We proceed.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a lovely presentation. Yeah, it was very informative. Thank you.
Dean, did I get it in 10 minutes?
You did it under 10 minutes, but then all the discussion.
I held my end of the bargain.
Yes, you did.
Oh, that's great. Moving on to 7A, consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of approval of the minutes of May 11th, and May 18th, 2021. Do we have a
Move the
motion?
consent calendar.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Our next item is 9A, and that is regarding the, let me make sure I check. Okay. There's no unfinished business. I should have stated that. We're on to new business now. 9A is regarding a formal non-discrimination policy. First, I want to thank Councilmember Moore for bringing this to our attention, for putting this on our radar. Some of us thought that it was already a part of the formal written policy for the city, but it was not. But it will be formalized now. I'd like to note for the folks at home that although there has not been a formal written policy, that non-discrimination has been practiced across the city in all decision-making. And also non-discrimination is a part of all city contracts that are approved by the governing body. So at this point, I would like to ask Councilmember Moore to say a few words about the formalization of this policy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes. I was somewhat surprised that we had not, as a body, codified our non-discrimination policy as a city. I mean, it's very obvious when you look around that it's something that we value as a governing board, as by our city staff, our employees here, that not discriminating anyone that we come in contact with is very important and a value that Manassas Park holds high. So it's just very important, both symbolically and I think legally, that we codify this policy tonight, saying that we do not discriminate on these various bases that we have before us. I want to draw our attention to just two that really expands this, particularly given that this is Gay Pride Month. And we're saying to the community and to the society and to our neighbors and friends that the city of Manassas Park will not discriminate on the basis of sexual orientation or sexual or gender identity. And I just think that's important given what's going on, like was said earlier by Jim, in Loudoun County with the teacher and other issues that have been going on. So again, I have this, I appreciate Dean for crafting this policy for us, and hope that my colleagues here on the dais will support it tonight. And so appreciate that.
Okay, thank you for your comments. City Attorney, do you have anything to add?
I don't. No, thank you.
Okay,
No,
well then let's go to comments and questions. Councilmember Amaya.
No questions.
Okay, and Daryl, you just spoke.
No
up.
question.
Councilmember Mensing.
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Javed.
I do have one question. It might be a Dean question. And sorry, I got busy during the week, but what's the difference between a resolution and an ordinance?
Well, it's the formality mainly. So we codify our ordinances and put them in the city code.
Yeah.
Okay, and then so there's a fine line between a resolution and ordinance. You'll find a lot of the enabling legislation allows for a governing body to do stuff by resolution or ordinance, but think of it kind of a more formal exclamation mark, if you will, for the ordinance. So we typically, the order of precedence, an ordinance and a resolution, then just a simple motion, where you just I move to do this. Although you move to approve ordinances and resolutions as well, so it's a little bit confusing. But the simple way to look at it is if you want something to be in the city code, you do it by ordinance, although that's not the entire truth, because we do have to do some things by ordinance, by law, that is not codified. But typically we have a book of ordinances called our code, that just puts in a nice, simple place everything for the public. Now, our resolutions go in a resolution book that's not published, but it's available for the public to look at if they want. So it's more of an ordinance is more of a formalized notice to the public, this is what we're doing. A resolution is something that's typically, like an ordinance would be binding on the public. A resolution is something that's typically done like this, where it's a policy of the governing body itself to direct the city staff. We wouldn't do that by ordinance necessarily, because an ordinance is generally seen as something for the general public, for our interaction with the general public. And I know I'm not doing a very good job of explaining it, but that's a simplistic way of looking at it.
Yeah, I get the gist of it. I guess the resolution is more like a statement, ordinance.
Well, it's more formal than just a motion.
Right.
And it's something that's written down so we can actually follow it and refer to it later on.
The only question, I guess, the reason I brought that up was, is a resolution enforceable?
Well, no, I mean, you could always, no. The answer is a resolution can always be undone by another resolution.
Right.
A vote can always be taken
But an
to
ordinance
undo it.
can't, right.
Well, and you do the same thing with an ordinance, but a lot of times an ordinance is you're actually amending the code itself, and so we're going through Muni code. It's a little bit more of a pain in the rear to do it. It costs the city money to do it. Therefore, it's less likely to happen. But yes, you can amend an ordinance
And then
as
in
well.
the eyes of HR, a resolution does not stand. They can't do anything for a resolution in the HR.
HR, I'm not sure I'm following.
It's probably referring to the employee policy manual. That's
that's something separate. So that's the employment policy manual or the employee manual.
Well, yeah, I understand the employee manual, but I'm saying like back to say there was something that violated this resolution. We technically can't act on.
Well, this is a commitment by the governing body. So in here it says the city of Manassas Park is committed to a policy of discrimination and will oppose any unlawful discrimination. Okay, so that means that how you oppose that is up to you. Are you going to file a lawsuit, or are you just going to pass another resolution saying you're in opposition to something that's being done? This is just a way to formally express the intent of the governing body for the world to see. Whereas a ordinance can do the same thing, but more often an ordinance is used as a means to communicate the laws of the city to the public.
Right.
It's like it's a way to let them know what they can and cannot do.
And then that goes to my next question. Any business in the city that discriminates on either a customer or an employee, the city cannot do anything unless it's an ordinance.
Okay, so this is more of a statement of how the city is going to be run. So there's already a law in the books in the Constitution as far as discrimination as you described. And we've tracked that. It's the Virginia Human Rights Act. We've tracked the language of the Virginia Human Rights Act in our policy, but the city wouldn't be on there. I mean, I guess we could file in support of, but we wouldn't have jurisdiction or standing necessarily to file any lawsuit against someone. The person discriminated against would have to do that. And we could file a friend of the court brief if we really felt strongly about it, but that's direction you would give.
Yeah, I just want to make sure this blankets the whole city, not just the governing body. Non-enforcement policy. I guess it's just just a policy bearing. But no other question. I just wanted to know the difference between enforcing it. Does it go to private businesses? Can we, resolution between a resolution and an ordinance? What's the difference? So, yes.
As I understand it, that this policy, any programs, anything that the city of Manassas Park does would not be allowed to violate. In other words, there are swim classes at the community center.
Okay.
We can't discriminate based on this policy or any other program that we offer.
Right, exactly. But it's internal to the city.
Internal
it's not
to just the city.
Yeah, so it's not a business within the city.
Right.
But we are saying we will oppose unlawful discrimination, which means whatever you want it to mean. Like I said, you could direct me to file a friend of the. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or you could just come out in public and say, we're appalled that this is going on within our city limits, something to that effect. But it's not an enforcement document outside of employment.
Right. All right, very well.
Or how the city's run.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And anything that deals with employees is covered by EEOC, Virginia employment law.
And I want to point out, so that's the enforcement mechanism, but as a city, we're also required by the Public Procurement Act to put a statement in every contract with anybody that contracts with the city that they are not allowed to discriminate. So when they reach out to contract with us, they're agreeing to abide by that, and we can terminate the contract if they're in violation. We can't prosecute them, but we can terminate the contract.
The only question, that's all my questions.
Oh, okay. Vice Mayor Banks, do you have any questions, comments?
Thank you, Councilmember Moore. No questions.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I do have a request.
Yes.
If it would be possible, if you would mind reading resolution into the?
I
public
had
hearing?
intended
Oh,
to
that would
read
be
it
great.
into the
Thank you very
record.
much. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, yeah. This is one of the ones that I would definitely read into the record. Establishing a policy to oppose unlawful discrimination in the city of Manassas Park. Whereas the city of Manassas Park is one of the most diverse communities in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and whereas the governing body is proud of this diversity and desires to ensure that all residents, employees, and businesses feel welcomed and free of unlawful discrimination, and whereas the governing body finds that it would therefore be in the best interest of the city and its residents, employees, and businesses to formally establish a policy of non-discrimination that will guide city programs, services, and activities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the governing body hereby establishes a city non-discrimination policy as follows. The City of Manassas Park is committed to a policy of non-discrimination in all city programs, services, and activities. The city will oppose any unlawful discrimination, including but not limited to discrimination based on race, color, religion, national origin, sex, pregnancy, childbirth or related medical conditions, age, marital status, sexual orientation, gender identity, status as a veteran, disability, and any other basis prohibited by federal or state law. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
He's frozen. Okay.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, moving on to 9B, community, wait a second. 9B is Bowman contract, excuse me. Amendment to engineering services agreement with Bowman. Good evening.
Vice Mayor, members of council, citizens, staff, and guests. I'm Calvin Odell, the Director of Community Development for the City of Manassas Park. Before the board tonight is a fourth amendment to the services agreement with Bowman Consulting. In 2013, October of 2013, we issued an RFP for on-call engineering services. There were multiple firms that were awarded contract under that RFP. A couple years ago, we extended all of those contracts because they all had ongoing work, or at least some of them had ongoing work. So we extended all of those contracts with the anticipation that we'd have an RFP issued late last winter, early this January. Unfortunately, we've been sort of hung up in a review process. As some of you are aware, some of you are not. We actually, in order for our firms, our engineering firms, to just pick up and run with state-funded transportation projects, the RFP has to be reviewed and approved by VDOT. It has to contain certain language. We're at the tail end of that review process. We actually got final comments back last week, so this new RFP for on-call services will hit the streets in the coming weeks, and we hope to have a new firms on board within a matter of months. However, Bowman Consulting is sort of midstream on several of our large site plan review processes. They've issued first, second, third round comments, and they should be there to handle those comments or handle any new site plan submissions we have. So we are recommending this fourth amendment to extend Bowman's current agreement with the city through December so that they can handle site plan work. We do not intend to issue them any other tasks aside from site plan review. So anything else that comes up before we have a new round of consultants on board, we would go ahead and issue individual RFPs for that. But we don't want a new consultant to step in midstream in some of these site plans, and we really lean on Bowman for their stormwater expertise with their knowledge of and expertise in stormwater plan review. So our staff recommendation is that we go ahead and approve this fourth amendment to keep Bowman working on these site plans while we get the RFP issued for new city consultants.
Thank you, Calvin. Thank you. Vice Mayor Banks, let's start with you. Questions, comments?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Hampton?
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Javed?
No questions.
Councilmember Mensing?
No questions.
Councilmember Moore?
No questions.
No questions.
And no questions. Okay. Well, with that, staff recommendation is to approve the extension of the on-call engineering services agreement for plan review with Bowman Consulting Incorporated to December 31st, 2021, and direct the city manager to sign the appropriate agreement amendment subject to review, final review by city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Okay. And I think you're still up, Calvin. Task order number 3 with M&F Concrete.
Thank you. I had given a brief heads up that this was coming in previous meetings. We issued a smaller task order for some very high complaint concrete work through the city at the last meeting. This is actually a much larger list. This is a tremendous amount of work and will consume a large portion of the additional streets projects budget from the Capital Improvements Fund. This work is scattered throughout the city. It's really the first major attack we've made on some of the storm box issues in Bloom's Crossing. We've hit 1 or 2 storm boxes at a time, but there's several on this list. It's an ongoing issue with Bloom's Crossing where the storm box backs were not in place or were not grouted properly, and we've had sidewalks sag as much as 2 to 3 inches behind those storm boxes, those catch basins. But this is also an incredible amount of driveway apron repair, curb and gutter repair, and sidewalk repair also in the center of town, the Four Corners district. So this task order number 3 with M&F Concrete is for assorted work across the city for a total of $52,693.99. And staff is recommending that we approve it and we use the additional streets projects line item for the Capital Improvements Fund to cover this work.
Thank you, Calvin. And could you explain for the benefit of the folks at home how the repair priority was determined?
So we, as Public Works crew is out and about all the time. We actually, our streets supervisor keeps a little running diary of issues he comes across. We keep a little diary of complaints that we receive, and anything that the crew stumbles upon when they're out and about in the city, we take note of it. Some of this is remainder of some complaint-based work. Some of this is just stuff that's been noted by Streets Department or Public Works crew when they're out doing work. But all of these areas are high priority areas where either the curb and gutter is completely broken or missing large pieces, where the sidewalk is creating a ADA compliance issue, or curb and gutter or driveway aprons, that are in such poor condition that residents have either complained or we note that they're not conveying stormwater the appropriate way anymore. So prioritization, we really, with concrete, it's a little easier than with paving, where there's so many different ways to measure alligator cracking, potholing, and things like that. But with concrete, you're truly talking about ADA compliance along the sidewalks, curb and gutter, and driveway aprons. Are you still conveying the stormwater effectively? Most of these sidewalks, if you went out there and looked at them, you'd see that it would be very difficult for someone in a chair or mobility device to actually traverse. Okay. So we try to get those taken care of as a top priority, and then use whatever's left to address curb and gutter and driveway aprons.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilmember Amaya, comments or questions?
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Moore?
No questions.
Councilmember Mensing?
No questions.
Councilmember Javed?
None.
Okay. Councilmember Hampton?
Just for clarification, when was the last time work like this was done?
Well, we actually have for curb and gutter and sidewalks, we do that internally. The only difference is with this particular list, we would max out at probably a fifth to maybe a quarter of this list, devoting the entire crew for most of a week to get this done. Because you essentially have to have a finished crew at each job as an express truck or a concrete truck drives around. Same approach that M&F's going to take, but much higher number of staff that are actually experienced in finished work. So they can bring in a large truck and hit 10 to 15 locations all at one time. Whereas we have to kind of limit ourselves to 4 or 5 locations so we have enough guys that we can actually sort of get the concrete finished in time. So this list is about 4 to 5 times what Public Works crew can do. But yes, we do concrete work internally. We've really attacked concrete work internally for the past couple of years. But when we can't catch up to these major issues, that's when we pull the trigger on a large contract like this.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Mayor Banks?
Thanks, Calvin. No questions.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, staff recommendation is that the governing body approve task order number 3 to M&F Concrete in an amount not to exceed $52,619.99 and direct the city manager to sign task order number 3, subject to final review by city attorney.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you, Calvin. Much appreciated. Oh, okay. Oh, excuse me. Yes, I did. I missed Keith's email. A comment came in on YouTube from Ms. Sarah Denholm. Can someone address the new code enforcer person that is putting notices inside of a mailbox? That is a federal offense. I was told by my notice it was in the right of way. I don't know what she means by it, but I was told by my notice it was in the right of way. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I think I'd have
Maybe
to
we
follow
can
up
have
with her,
someone
see what's-
contact Ms.
yeah.
Denholm.
If she doesn't mind giving us her email, we can
I beg your pardon?
If she doesn't mind giving us her email, we can get back with her and find out what the
Ms. Denholm, if you're watching, could you please contact the city and provide Laszlo with your email address? Oh, part 2? Okay, thank you, Keith. Part 2, to my earlier, if right-of-way, then city needs to clean the snow off the sidewalks and mow that strip. I have the code enforcer on the Ring doorbell putting into mailbox. Okay. Please contact city manager, Ms. Denholm, so that we can communicate via phone and via email as well. Okay, thank you. Moving on to Manassas Park City Library.
Great. Thank you, members of the governing body. Scheduling conflict, our director, Holly Ritchie, was unable to make it, but we do have from LS&S, Sarah Roberts joining us, so thank you very much, Sarah. But again, if we're not able to answer all your questions tonight, again, feel free, we can push this back to make a decision when Holly can join us. But I will turn it over to Sarah, and just of note, I did the calculations for the fee as well, so I can follow up with any answers to kind of how I did that. So, Sarah?
Hello, everyone. As you can see the outline here, that it's fairly standard for public libraries to have a non-resident fee card. Of course, you guys, or the city of Manassas Park, has so many great reciprocal agreements that we weren't sure if this would be in demand, but it has been requested at the library for someone who's not part of the reciprocal agreements and doesn't live in the city to be able to purchase a card. So we try to charge as much, the most appropriate amount for a non-resident card, and that is where we came up with the $38. So I'm happy to answer any questions or.
Oh, okay. Did you finish? Are you done? I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt. Okay, I didn't want to interrupt you. Thank you. Councilmember Hampton, questions?
No, it just seems in line with other jurisdictions.
Yeah. Councilmember Javed?
Yeah, my only question is that renters that are living in the houses, that can they use the address to get access to a public library card?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
But if what needs to be presented? The driver license?
Yes, we take multiple forms of ID, and driver's license is one. People can bring in their lease agreements or power bills, so multiple ways to show that you're living. And because our cards do expire, if they move away, eventually that access would be cut off.
Right.
If they moved outside of the reciprocal areas.
Okay. Like, if the utility bill is on the homeowner's name and they're renting out, say, the basement, and they have kids that want to access the library, if they have no license or utility bill, they would be counted as a non-resident?
Well, they're probably in violation of the zoning ordinance, just so you know.
Starters.
Well, wouldn't their school correspondence work? I mean, they get report cards, they get letters, they get.
Yeah, so that's why I was asking what needs to be presented and what's considered non-resident, I guess.
Remember, it's not just non-resident, because a lot of non-residents in the MCOG area, they don't get charged either, because we have the reciprocal agreement. So we don't charge county residents, we don't charge Falls Church residents, just like they don't charge us. It's those that are outside of that.
Oh, wow.
Are you asking if there's a formal list of acceptable identifications? Is that what you're asking?
Well, I mean, she answered that question, what the list was. I'm just trying to figure out what's classified as non-resident. I guess outside Northern Virginia?
Well, actually here on page 40, and I can't read the number.
8.1. Yeah. 45, section 8.1.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This is a wide range.
Well,
so.
and it's not, and it's almost the same. I looked at Fairfax County.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much the same jurisdictions.
Yeah.
Well, it's COG members.
Yep. It's our COG member. There was an agreement and
well, she mentioned it was a need for it, so I'm trying to figure out where they're coming from.
But that means is people are coming from outside these areas.
So West Virginia or
Stafford, maybe they live in Stafford and work here. Or
Stafford, yeah, I guess.
I don't see Stafford on there, but yeah, maybe Stafford and they work in the city and they want to stop by.
Yeah.
Warren County.
Yeah, all the way down. Yeah, I guess. Okay.
You'd be surprised. People actually collect library cards, and they love the electronic resources. So
that is true.
They try to get as many as they can. But anyone who owns property, a business, work, or attends school in Manassas Park can get a card. So we try to give as many cards as we can, just as an FYI.
All right, thank you.
That's interesting. I didn't know people collected library cards. That's a new one to me. Yeah. Councilmember Mensing.
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Moore.
No questions.
Okay. Vice Mayor Banks.
Sarah, I collect library cards. My pride and joy is the Library of Congress library card. No questions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, staff recommendation is that the governing body authorizes updated policy language outlining the annual library card fee structure for non-resident, non-reciprocal patrons. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are to 9E, which is code review and amendment contract support.
Great. Good evening again, members of the governing body. This is just a follow-up from the information item as I discussed. This has really had its antecedents from the fall town hall that we held to review all community maintenance, zoning, and parking enforcement issues as we were starting to get additional demand from our residents to step up enforcement. So the governing body asked that we hold the town hall and that we provide an analysis of kind of what's happening with these issues and to do a Q&A. So we received multiple questions from residents, from the governing body, and we came back with a list of answers as well. And again, as I repeated earlier in the information item, on page 75 of your packet was a list of options that staff presented, and we've been kind of coming back slowly and surely with kind of recommendations for how to accomplish all those options. This really tackles options 10 and 12 from that list to start review of the code, come up with a game plan for how we're going to tackle those code amendments and kind of start developing scopes of work and priorities. Priority number one, again, being that ticketing evaluation, and then just evaluating other chapters, chapter 7, 8 of our code, 31 of our code. There's different chapters that we're going to want to look at, and again, look at best practices, and also evaluate our processes for how we do things, and improve those, along with, again, evaluating the ability to start just being quicker in our enforcement, because that's one of the, I guess, the frustrations that we hear from our residents is we're following the proper legal steps and we're giving people, X amount of days. to satisfy issues, but that sometimes, residents feel frustrated. So the goal is, again, to take immediate enforcement action and actually start putting some financial penalties on these violations as well. So that's something we have to review. So it's a comprehensive analysis. You can see there's plenty of budget, even with all the legal stuff we've been doing this year. We do pretty well on managing our legal budget. So again, we want to start off with getting them on board and kind of take a project by project perspective and lay out scopes of work. And then again, I would keep that under the total budget, or I'd come back to you all again during the budget amendment process that I feel we need additional funding to get this covered. So with that, are there any questions?
Seems like we're finally getting to the point financially where we can do things of this nature. Yeah. Thank you, Laszlo. Okay, Councilmember or Vice Mayor Banks, do you have any comments or questions?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Hampton.
No questions.
Councilmember Javed.
Yeah, so the company is just going to provide information to the staff.
They're going to do what we asked them to do, essentially, but you can see in their opening chapter based off our conversation. So
yeah,
we're going to have them join our committee. They're going to hear from staff about how we do things right now. They're going to take orders from us essentially on what code sections we want them to take a look at and see kind of what other jurisdictions are doing.
Yeah.
How can we bring that up to speed with?
They can help us rewrite it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then things that we want to accomplish and just evaluate the feasibility of being able to accomplish that. So just providing some contracts to support the limited bandwidth that we have as a staff to come back and provide those draft recommended changes to be reviewed by the city attorney, reviewed by myself and staff as well, before we bring that back to you all for final say on whether we want to take these actions or not.
Okay. No other questions?
No follow-up? No. Okay. Councilmember Mensing?
Just a clarification, is this also going to be addressing the new commercial vehicle ban for parking, or is that something we're doing?
That. I thought it was on my calendar. I just need to get it on my calendar with Mickey and sit down, but she's already taken a crack at that. So.
Okay, so we're doing that internally. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Moore?
No question, just a comment. It just seems very obvious that there's some low-lying fruit in our codes that we could streamline and perfect that will make things a little quicker. I think the demolition of the property, had it not been for the emergency, we would still kind of be waiting for the process to roll through. So I think being able to identify those are really going to make an amazing impact on improving how quickly we can move and act on things going forward. So I think this is money well spent, and I'm glad we're bringing people on board.
Good to be able to do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Councilmember Maya?
No questions.
Okay. And I've already hit Vice Mayor Banks. Okay.
Madam Mayor, I've got a quick question.
Yes, go ahead.
In the agreement, it's towards the end, towards the last paragraph. It talks about conformance to state law. And I'm wondering if there may be an instance where the law firm may need to look at our neighboring jurisdictions for any ideas that they could use.
Well, if I can just jump in here. So this firm, they have a wide footprint in Virginia. Okay, and I recommended that we go to them for that reason. They represent a lot of localities. One of the principals used to be the county attorney in Prince William. Sharon Pandak. She also does work with COG and others regional groups. So yes, I think the short answer is yes. They would be looking at best practices in adjoining areas and see where our code could be fine-tuned a little bit. I think that's probably the best thing they can do. I don't think they're going to do a deep dive and go line by line. They're going to be directed to come up with more streamlined policy. Some of the questions would be like, right now that we have things that are misdemeanor violations. Okay, well, misdemeanor is kind of like hitting a mosquito with a sledgehammer, but that's what it is. Can we make that an infraction? Can we make it so that if there's, if they get a certain number of infractions, can we revert back to the misdemeanor? Those are the kind of things they're going to be looking at and see if other jurisdictions have done that and what the legal, the guiding legal authority is to do that. So I think the answer is yes.
Okay, do we need to put that in writing, or is that kind of implicit in the agreement?
No, this is a law firm, so it's not some company that we're contracting with just to do this. They're a law firm, and they will do whatever we tell them to do, essentially. So I think that the scope of their engagement letter is sufficient to allow us to do that.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, staff recommendation is that the governing body authorize the city manager to sign the attached proposal agreement with Grian, Tavis, and Pandak PLLC for code review and amendment support services pending final review by city attorney.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you very much. And now, city manager's report.
So tonight we have a couple of presentations. Before I go into those presentations, just a note to the public and the governing body that next week, because of the elections, we're actually going to be meeting upstairs. The schools have allowed us to use the school board meeting room for the public hearing for the budget, and I also hope to be able to present the budget amendment 3 as well that night. So we'll have a sign here just directing people to go upstairs who are here for the public hearing. So just an update. Is there any questions about that?
Thank you for making those arrangements.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, and that was Lena as well.
Thank you, Lena.
So I want to share this real quick. Okay, so first we'll start with DSS and we'll go into city admin. So Lena, I'll turn it over to you. Just let me know when you want me to change slides.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the governing body. Next slide, please. Randy Knight, Director of Social Services, here tonight to just provide you with some updates of what's been going on in our department over the last quarter. I did want to follow up with our postings that we discussed the last time I was in front of you all. I'm happy to report that we do have them posted. The state is responsible for posting our positions on the recruit management system. The positions are screened through the state, and then they come to me here at the locality to do a further screening based on posting questions. And so they're posted until filled, which is great because it's allowing us to get a jump on screening the applications before the effective start dates of July. So we're happy to report that we did get those out and up, and we are receiving applications. I also wanted to highlight the fact that we were recognized by the state again for SNAP requirements for 2 months, March and April. So staff are continuing to follow through and get the job done. So that's fantastic. And it's always great to be recognized by the consultants with the state. And then I wanted to take this opportunity to let you know, let our community know that we are in need of foster families. We did conduct a recent Pride Resource Family training back in January. I believe we had about 10 participants. Some families just don't make the cut for whatever reason. Perhaps they thought that it was something that they had imagined. When we start doing the home studies and things like that, it just doesn't work out. But from the group, we did have one family that is now part of our Manassas Park Resource Family Group. So that's great. But as we're seeing an uptick in cases coming in, it's really a great feeling to be able to place a child that we have to remove with a Manassas Park family, just so they have that sense of community. And so, if anybody knows anyone out there that's interested in becoming trained in the Pride model to become a resource family, point them in my direction, have them send their email to our email listing here that shoots to our entire services department. Even if we don't have a class that's up and running right this minute, we're partnering with other localities to allow families to participate because they are being held virtually right now. So please spread the word. Let's see, next slide, please. Last time I spoke to you all, I mentioned that the state is now providing local dashboard reports. These reports are sent to the city manager as well as our advisory board on a quarterly basis. So the data I have for you right now is our third quarter, so that would cover January, February, and March. It's a lengthy report. It has a lot of good data, but I figured I would pull some of the more user-friendly slides and present that to you all this evening. What I like about these reports is that not only does it show us where we should be, it shows us in comparison to the entire state. It shows us in comparison to level 1 agencies, which Manassas Park is a level 1. Fairfax or Prince William County would be considered a level 3, and Manassas City is considered a level 2. And then it also compares us to the region and then also level 1 agencies in the region. And here, these 3 slides that I have right here are showing you the process times for expedited, regular SNAP applications. Expedited are those that we have to give a response in 7 days time frame based on the data that's provided on the application, and then the non-expedited, which we have 30 days to process that application. So you can see here that despite the increased caseload, the working conditions that we've all been under, the benefits unit is doing a fantastic job at not only making sure we make the marks here for an agency, but across the state and across the northern region. So it's very, very fantastic to see this. If at any time you have questions about the slides that are up with the data, feel free to stop and let me know. Next slide, Laszlo. So again, continuing on with the data that's pulled from the dashboard reports, I just pulled some of the CPS stats, and again, you can see that the target rate for Manassas Park should be at 85, and we're at 87 for the quarter. We're well above, state agencies as a whole, and doing fine as far as the northern region and other level 1 agencies. Same thing with our first contacts with a victim. That can be different time frames based on the case situation. Sometimes we have to make contact within hours, and sometimes it can be within days. So again, we're meeting our marks across the board there, which is great to see. And congregate care placement, this is placing our foster youth with families, and as you can see, the target rate is 16%. We are falling a little bit below that, and that's why I stress the need to have more foster family homes when we have those homes where we can place kids and get that done quickly and smoothly without having to place them in facilities or in a temporary emergency type situation. It's better for the youth, it's better for our staff, it's better for the family as a whole. Next slide. Okay. Kinship care, we currently do not have any of those cases. I thought I would list that just to show you that that is a possibility, and we actually may have a case coming here shortly. Kinship is when it would be a grandparent that's willing to be trained in the Pride resource family. So the grandparent takes on the role of a foster parent to gain custody of the child. That's how that differs. It's not just saying, okay, I agree to be the guardian of this child, but you're actually trained and being, monitored by our department and provided a maintenance payment and things like that. And we have a lot of foster youth right now. I'm happy to see that although our caseload has increased and our staffing needs have remained the same, that we're still making our visits based on what the state is requiring. Sometimes, we do run into trouble with that if, especially with COVID recently, we are required to, at minimum, see a youth once a month. And if we wait too long in the month, and then, you know, that child is sick or we're sick or there's a snowstorm or whatever, we can easily miss our target by, you know, one visit not being made. So the fact that this number is so high right there means that the staff are really doing a great job to see the kids. And again, in the residents, we do have a couple youth that are placed in residential facilities. One of our youth is in Timber Ridge, which is way out Winchester way. So, you know, we always try to make sure that the visits that direction are earlier in the month. So if we do run into any hiccups, we can make sure that we're still meeting that target and ensuring that we're providing services to the youth. And next slide, Laszlo, please. And I just went ahead here and added the resource family flyer that we have. We do have this posted in on the city Facebook page, the city website. We push it every once in a while, and we do have it in Spanish. And again, where there's a real need to have trained foster families. So spread the word that DSS is looking for participants to take the class. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Randy. That was great. Councilmember Amaya, questions?
No questions.
Councilmember Moore.
Randy, excellent report. It's just impressive what your staff is doing and all of the metrics that we have before us. How long is a Pride training class? How long does it last?
Well, it can be upwards to 12 weeks long. What we typically do is survey the participants and what works for them. So, you know, do we shorten it where we meet 2 or 3 times a week so it's not as long? But it is considered a 12-week long training program. But, you know, again, if we need to do it for 4 hours, a couple days a week to shorten that, or if we do want to just meet once a week for the 12 weeks, you know, we'll do that too.
Thank you.
It's great information. Yeah, I wish I would have taken it before I became a parent.
Very good.
Okay. Are you?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
Councilmember Mensing?
No questions. Thanks.
Okay. Councilmember Javed?
No questions. Thank you, Randy.
Councilmember Hampton?
No questions.
Vice Mayor Banks?
Thank you for the report and presentation. No questions.
Okay, thank you. And thank you very much, Randy. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Next up, we have a report from our administrative team led by Chris Hines. I will turn it over to Chris here to get things started.
And is the link can be brought up here when I pull up the web?
Yeah, you may have to drag it over.
Okay, I was
yeah,
gonna say.
drag it onto that. It's the third screen on the right.
Yep, sounds good. All right. Well, good evening, Mayor, members of the governing body. Assistant City Manager Chris Himes. I'll be leading off the kind of 4-pronged brief of the admin portion for our third quarter report. I figured it makes sense to have Q&A following each section because every subject is pretty different. So after my portion, we'll have a quick round if you have any. Then followed by John Spady, our IT director. Then I believe leg 3 will be Valerie Dingler, our HR director. And then finally, Pan Youssef, who's our anchor. She's the fastest person on the team, so she'll be closing it out for us here. So, all right. So I'm here to provide mostly the kind of software portion because we've had all those projects kind of ongoing for about the past 6 months to kind of show you kind of where we're at, how much further we have to go, and if you have any questions accordingly. So without further ado, this is what I've been providing to Lazo during our bi-weekly director meetings, talking about just kind of the overall scope status of our projects. And just kind of quickly running down, if you have any questions, let me know. But in terms of our payment portal, if you remember, we partnered with Virginia Interactive, who is now a subsidiary of NIC, which is a national kind of like federal payments firm. And now they have a new kind of corporate entity called NIC Virginia, but they're essentially the same group, same product. But now you're part of an even larger network, which is even better. And they're also, over the past few months, have proven out to be well worth their reputation. So they've been really good at not only defining all of our requirements, but also working with our third-party vendors who are going to be providing that kind of payment information. So not only will we have it kind of what it is currently today, which is mostly for tax and utility payments, we'll also have integrations for our parking ticket payments for our police department, our fire marshal payments, so for people who have to deal with what they have today, which is essentially just cash and check only, and then also some of those kind of non-regular type payments for our EMS billing, which occurs on a regular schedule, and just some other kind of one-off miscellaneous type payments like dog licenses that we don't currently have online. So all very exciting. One of the kind of reasons it's extending just a little bit past the summer, because we had earmarked for the very end of the summer, was essentially just the documentation phase, just during the early portions of COVID, and getting staff and together and just getting all those requirements built out, as well as they were a part of a team that essentially got bought out by, or excuse me, added to another company, so their corporate structure kind of changed. So there's just a lot of moving parts, but essentially we're all in the same boat and we're moving forward, and everything's working out pretty well. As far as the city website, that is pretty much on schedule to be completed by what we had projected would be the very beginning of the FY. That also coincides with just not the best timing in terms of FY going into a 4th of July weekend, so we're targeting July 12th. They usually don't prescribe to roll out big events like that going into a long holiday weekend. So we're waiting the next week afterwards, so July 12th is our target date. That'll be a full production version of our new city website. And the reason it extends into August, because you usually keep about 4 weeks on hand to fix any corrective bug issues that you might experience as you go into production, or people see things and you need to work with the vendor to kind of tweak things out. But for the most part, that has been a fairly seamless process, albeit it has been a very long, let's say, unfurling the web that we currently have on our current city website, and it's constructed on the back end. So that's elongated that project just a little bit, but overall, the vendor's been really good to work with, and we're almost near completion. In fact, right now, city QAing process is underway, and over the next 6 weeks, they'll be working diligently to make sure that it's almost completely ready to go. And I would say almost, because usually, even though you have a bunch of different eyes on something, you can miss something and you'll just get tweaked later after the fact. So I'm fairly confident that'll be a successful switch into production for our city. And I'll link to it here in a second to show, but I want to talk about the rest of the project, and I'll show you kind of where we're at with the new city website. And if you have any questions on that, let me know. GIS, that is our essentially our new relationship with Esri. They're essentially the largest partner that provides GIS services across all spectrums of both public and private sector. So that was a great vendor to identify and bring into the city on a really, I would say, beneficial partnership because of their small government product they have available for us. So that it's extremely scalable. And GIS for us is going to be twofold. We're going to have not only a viewer capability, but those dashboard capabilities. So what we've all become accustomed to over the last 12 months, everyone's gone to their favorite COVID dashboard, whoever has the best type of metrics. We're going to have that similarly built out for certain departments that will utilize that for operational type purposes. So if you can imagine, and I'll pull up an example here for our fire rescue department, in their call center where you have the front desk, they'll have the big screen up there, and it'll essentially be their dashboard of all of their live information coming in with calls for service and where it's heading on the city, and categorizing it, you name it. So it's like a really good beneficial tool for operational purposes. That'll be on our police and fire departments to start, kind of a quote unquote public safety encompassing, which also informs our emergency management processes as well. And then we'll have one for financial metrics within the city. Sorry, I'm getting awesome flying napkins around here right now. Our financial ability to track all of our financial data. So you think about different kind of property values, people tax, other kind of economic values within the city. And then the last one is going to be kind of a unique one that we're kind of workshopping right now, a Parks and Recreation type dashboard. Is kind of a proof of concept. Just finding ways that we can extrapolate their information into a visual tool to further drive decision-making, marketing, you name it. So that one is kind of completely proof of concept right now, but we're just kind of playing with it. And it's mostly just learning the technology and what it can do for you and throwing information to it and see if it's useful. So that's the good part. And you'll notice with all of these, They're all about capacity building for the city. Everything is about building out our ability to do more with what we have than we're currently doing it today through technology. Our DS, that stands for Dude Solutions, that was one of the approved components of what you consider to be our comprehensive kind of community development department tool. So it's kind of split up into two programs. SmartGov is one that's mostly for our development services department, so permitting and inspections as well as code enforcement. And then really you think about those two, the building and permitting inspections is kind of a division, and then code enforcement is like another division. So SmartGov's essentially kind of two tools in one. And then our assets management tool, that's essentially like a work ordering type tool. So if you can imagine our streets crew can be out there with an iPad or a tablet or whatever they're using. I believe that's tablets. And essentially go into the tool, find an asset in the city on a map, click on it. They're supposed to perform performative or routine or reactive kind of maintenance, fill out the workflow, plot the maintenance. All of that data gets pulled back into a centralized tool where they can kind of track it not only as you've completed this, kind of like you're completing a schedule in your glove compartment of your car for how many mileage you're going through, but also we're tracking from a financial standpoint. So we're getting understanding of the depreciation of those assets. So we're just building out not only the reporting capability, but the financial capability of managing our assets just that much better. And as you can see, because those are two different tools within one agreement, the SmartGov, we shifted that one to orange because we temporarily lost our vendor IT consultant on their side, of which they stopped and kind of froze the project for a few months. They added one back in. It was completely on them, so they took the burden. They shifted our contract service agreement in terms of our next year's annual service contract, discounted us. So they were really great to work with, and they completely took that one on their shoulders. But we're back, and we're actually performing that implementation in parallel now. So we're going to be doing everything with code enforcement as its own project, and everything to build out the kind of building and permitting inspections workflow in another project, but we're doing them both at the same time, whereas they would have done them kind of in sequence linearly over a whole timeline. So we're kind of doing two things at once with that one. And then assets is green. Right now we are fully integrated. All of the Public Works departmental staff have a full, I'm going to say assets, it's streets, water, sewer, storm, fleet, facilities, you name it, across the board. So it's a comprehensive tool. And every person working within Calvin's department and our Public Works division and our facilities side and our fleet side, I've all been utilizing the tool over the past, let's say, 3 to 4 weeks, I think, in production. So we're getting data kind of as we speak. The last one is more for Don, but I can at least provide like a small update. He can speak to it more so if he needs to during his portion, but that's for our Microsoft Office 365 rollout for our staff. It's mainly for our email, primarily, if you can think of it, but just kind of that product suite that comes with Office 365 in terms of updating kind of our background OS for our city, getting us more, I would say, into a cloud type service posture rather than what we currently have, and it just makes us just a little bit more resilient. Plus, it's it's just a good enterprise service to have at an organizational level for all kind of facets. If you do have it personally and you utilize it, you can realize that the benefits of it. And getting the city migrated to that is a pretty challenging task, but one that I believe it was yellow solely for a slight hitch that Don can talk about, but overall it's still on track to be rolled out here within the next month and a half. Other projects, one that we had talked about in terms of kind of ERP consultation, in terms of looking for our new potential ERP for, I think we had it in our CFP for FY23. Everything about setting the city up for success and searching for that ERP is about process. So for us, we're searching for a consultancy that can come in and provide the level of, I would say, due diligence that we can perform in conjunction with a consultant to be able to understand how we run current business processes, how we can modernize those business processes with a replacement ERP, how do we go about setting up a plan that actually sets us up for success. So, we don't have a robust IT project management department. We have departmental stakeholders and staff doing ERP and IT implementation work. They kind of serve as that service. Right now we're evaluating the received proposals. I got 11 of them. And we're going to be conducting our due diligence on which consultants we want to review and how we're going to proceed as a city. So we're kind of in the very beginning portions of that phase. But the goal is to conduct that process over the next 12 months. And then of note, I just wanted to highlight that, as we bring up these systems, people don't really know kind of who they are and what they mean. So I wanted to provide a little bit of context. So if you can think of the GovTech 100, it's actually kind of like a consumer reports type style media source that reviews all types of government technologies that are out there. It's federal, state, and local level. And if you've seen over the last few months, PD with Axon, Esri, which is one of our service, Meter Code, which is provides our municipal code structure on our website, NIC, there's a couple other ones that I did include in there. They're all within that index, so they're all top of mind solutions for the types of things. So when we say to the public that these are the results that we're getting back and these are the vendors that we want to go with, these are really solid vendors that are serving of a really good service for our city and at a really amenable pricing for our city as well. So it's both cost effective and we're getting the biggest bang for our buck when we do this. So before I go to the quick examples, are there any questions with that?
Thank you, Chris. Vice Mayor Banks, questions?
Thanks, Chris. No questions.
Councilmember Hampton?
No questions.
Councilmember Javed?
Not yet.
No questions.
Councilmember Moore?
Just one, Chris. The website rollout, are we checking to make sure that it's ADA compliant?
That is part of the actual structure. So they build that into their build out. So the entire website is by default, by them providing it for us, ADA compliant with all the different measures that they have. There's a list of them. I
Yeah,
can get
size,
them for you.
color.
Yeah, everything, yep.
Good. Thank you.
They're a local government and government provider, and so that's part of their cost, like that's part of their plan is they say, hey, we provide this type of structure for you.
It's important, so
Yes,
great.
Very.
Councilmember Amaya?
Since we're picking up its question, is it going to be multiple languages or just English?
Yeah,
Okay.
and the very top right-hand screen, it just has translate in big bold letters, and you just go in there and it's every language you can possibly think of and speak, and it'll provide that for you. As far as level of throughput, all the way through, it's through the entire website, so everything gets translated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Here, I'll just do a quick synopsis. Like I said, this is still on the back end, so we're not fully in production go live, so there are a few things that still need to be tweaked. I'm going to hopefully see if this works as far as bringing up the window. So this is, if you remember the design template, it's kind of scrunched right now on the screen, so the how do I won't necessarily look like that. It'll be all kind of in sequence, so it's kind of squeezed onto this page right now. But this is, if you can think off the top of your head what our current city website looks like, I would say hopefully an improvement. And the goal was essentially to merge in a couple different, I would say, design aesthetics. One is modern, but kind of a traditional approach. When you go to a government website, you want to have it be kind of intuitive and easily navigable, and you want the kind of bottom line kind of functions up front. So the first thing you want people to see is just not only the navigational pane, but also the search bar, any kind of immediate pop-up type, alert type functions. This is another one if you do have. So all of these are very functionable additions to our website. We thought it was kind of neat to pull in the latest weather. Kind of a toolbar-based approach to the different types of functions you would need to perform. So if you were to click to a pay, it would lead to our pay for. When we replace it with a portal, a lot of this will be kind of portal type functions for payments, but just to kind of show you kind of a brief synopsis. Some of these connections aren't fully connected yet because we're still building out those solutions. Live city announcement feeds that are pulling in whatever we're working on in the back end to pull those through. If you want to build in your email updates, easily sign up for and get tagged onto a distribution list for city alerts. Kind of a two-fold city calendar. The departments that need kind of their sub-function calendars will have theirs, so that it won't be included here because we don't want to cloud it up with a ton of noise. We want everybody to kind of be built for purpose. So that's going to be one that you don't see any city events right now. We're adding them over the next 6 weeks here. So that'll be provided there. And then you can also go here if you wanted to see any kind of one more calendar-based view, a little bit more robust, but this tab is different from my laptop here. Pulling through our social media feeds, just to kind of have a little bit more of consolidation of information. And then last but not least, it's just kind of like a default toolbar here at the bottom, kind of like a city roster of departments, kind of quick links, stuff like that. Let me see if I can log in. The reason I said this site wasn't active because it's not necessarily pulling in all of the updated information that we're currently working on. So the goal is to essentially turn this live version over here on July 4th. So hopefully it works here. I don't know why, but you can see all of these kind of pop-up toolbars here. This is what our staff is utilizing on the back end. So if you have ever worked on a back end of a website before, it's usually just a bunch of gibberish HTML coding. It's very technical. And the reason we wanted to go with this vendor, because it is very user-friendly. It's like, hey, I want to change this thing here. And then you click on that, you simply type in your font and size and selection. It works kind of like Microsoft Word. It automatically sizes and frames pictures. It does a lot of stuff for you. I did have a navigational, excuse me, this is your big banner here. I updated it with a feed that's not necessarily pulling through. I'm not exactly sure why, but of course, it's all that stuff. But we're going to be utilizing one of those live slider type images with drone footage from around the city as kind of our background here. So it'll be different points of interest throughout the city. Just little things like that. We have a lot more capabilities here with this new city website. So
Can you do a drop down on the departments tab?
Oh, I mean, yeah, these are all completely lifetime. So these ones haven't been fully updated yet. We're completing their microsites as we speak, the parks and police ones. Let's say if you wanted to go to, and this is annoying because I can't see it on my own.
Yeah, scroll down.
Well, the biggest one is going to be
This is just a weird.
People looking for utilities, right?
Chrome.
Yeah, this isn't a Chrome pull through, so it's not necessarily the best search internet
Why
tool.
don't you want to scroll all the way down, and you can find it in the list.
Yeah, so here's like our
Fires.
fire site. You know, they'll have their own individual like sub-site here with their own capabilities for what they want to run as a department, different calendars, type events, and their own news feeds and stuff like that too. Our police and parks and recreation departments are the only of the departments that have this to start, because they're the only ones that have something like that today. And the goal was to kind of mimic what we currently have, and then as we see future need, we now have the capacity to build it out, and we're not limited by our current website.
You said Parks and Rec, did I hear that correctly?
Parks and Recreation, yeah, they'll also have something similar to this, but fitting to what they need to manage their current website. This will be the same thing. So, and I've been working with Lauren Locke, our marketing manager, on their spaces as well.
Is the governing body page with the YouTube video, is that ready?
Yeah, that is back on the city homepage. So just real quick here.
Does it show up well on a phone as well?
It is. It's one of the reasons I wanted to go with these vendors, because they're really solid with their phone, and as we all get more attuned to not being on a desktop version, more on a phone version, it looks really clean on a phone. That's why I wanted them. All these technologies. The first question I usually ask is just kind of what their mobile capacity looks like, because that, I mean, it's not in the future; it's the now.
Right.
It's buffering here. This will be kind of our future governing bodies kind of agenda management page. And so we're not utilizing an actual agenda management solution. We're utilizing what the web provider provides as a managing agendas. It's more of an aggregation page, but they'll have a YouTube feed here with live capability to input, kind of like what you have on YouTube. It essentially just pulls that information so you don't have to go to YouTube and our website. You can just do it all from our website here. And they're working on archiving all of our old agendas, so this isn't just one big run-on here as we speak. So it'll be, if you go to our, let's say like our finance department, and they have this kind of roll-ups here, it'll have the same thing of like 2020, 2019, 2018 for all the agendas mentioned. So it's something similar to that they're working on right now. Like I said, this is still not fully baked. It's semi-baked, so we're almost there.
Glad you didn't say half-baked.
Okay. So, and just to answer your question, this is the translation tool. So, if you wanted to pull through and pick a different language for.
Okay.
Great.
And so how are we going to inform the residents? What's the rollout plan?
That's what I'm trying to get with as a communication strategy, which will be formulated by our communications team as far as like a rollout, social media, X days out. You want to make sure that you are 100% certain that you're doing things on time. So
Yeah.
managing the release part of it is going to be probably the last thing that we necessarily approach within like a T-7, 6 day type thing. And then most of that is just going to be making sure that all of our current services are kind of muted and turned off more so than having the new one live, because hopefully citizens don't pull this up when they search and they don't think this is us and go to another page or something. But
Right.
that is the goal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
As far as the, I'm sorry, did there any other
Yeah,
questions?
any questions,
before?
Jamie?
I know that you were still going.
None? Okay.
But I got one for the website. I was going to get at was that, you know, when the residents go on there, we want easy usage. There should be one tab up there that says utility specifically on how to set up and disconnect and like water service.
We want to put that in the how do I. So it'd be like,
Is it gonna be a how do I?
Yeah, there's a how do I that just has a list of the different things that we would need, that you would want to do. But certainly,
because,
if you want us to make utilities prominent in the how do I, we can certainly do that.
Oh, trust me, I go on city websites as a real estate agent, and that's the biggest pet peeve of mine is I can't even find out utility information for my clients because I'm just searching through websites and links and this and that. So,
Unfortunately, right now it just goes straight to our KeyNet portal, which essentially right now is our current service provider for our utility billing platform, which is where you go in and you put in all your system information. But essentially right now it's, yes, most people just go, how do I go? And then people just go to the Treasury Department, the utility.
It just pops up,
City law, so.
Okay, that's fine.
But I agree, everything that is hopefully searchable, you can just say, how do I, set up, you can type it in here, set up my utility bill, and it comes up with the instant phase. And that's ultimately what we want. We want it to safely replace with like a Google search functionality.
Or how do I pay a bill? That's
Right, or how do I pay a
really
bill?
important.
Yeah, taxes or,
Yeah.
Okay.
It's lovely.
Yeah, it looks
It's
good.
lovely. Yeah.
Just a few examples, and these will be a little bit quicker, but we are going to have, like I said, on the city maps portion or the GIS portion, a public-facing viewer portal. Right now, because we currently are in the process of improving a lot of those processes with not only our GIS current state, GIS future state, but also the Tyler portions of those products as well. So we have multiple solutions kind of involved in that process. We're slowly building this out too. This will be kind of city and external staff dependent based on the types of layers. But the goal is to essentially have your ability to come on here and essentially look up your particular property information, zoom to your parcel. You'll have whatever parcel information that pertains to your property pull up. We're still piecing in different bits of information because GIS is an aggregator. It feeds in information from everywhere. So you really have to like lift up all the couch cushions to find absolutely everything to pull it into one view. And then you have to make sure that that view is as automated and repeatable as possible because you don't want time to go by, the data gets lapsed, and all of a sudden now you have to redo or refresh all of the data behind it. So we're still in the process of figuring out how we're gonna build the refreshing schedules of the data in some of these map views. But the goal would be for citizen to have this process right now where if they want to find out their property information, they can go into our portal, zoom in on their property or a search bar function into it. It'll hone into where they go. If you wanted to click on your tab, find out all of your information. And then, like I said, because we don't have the ability right now to pull in certain different property values, you can also go to our property portal right here and look up your same parcel information. So it's kind of going to hopefully be as one-stop shop as possible. And like I said, we have to work not just with one vendor, we have to work with 3 or 4 vendors to get this thing pulled together. So the goal is to eventually move away from that, but right now that's where we're at.
The processing fee is going to be the same for if people want to pay online, the processing fee?
Well, that'll be different in certain different depends. If you want to pay online and you want to pay your property bill by e-check, that'll be $1.
Okay.
Because that's just a transactional fee charged by when we talked about the NIC Virginia, there is no card expense, so you're not getting charged a percentage fee for transaction. Because if you have a property bill, I'm sure on a couple $1,000 property bill, you don't want to pay 3% or 1.7%.
Well, the water bill is 3%.
As low as possible, so that's why the e-check and ACH type functionality will be the biggest expansion of moving those types of payments from over the counter at the treasurer's desk to online as humanly possible. And that'll take a lot of training of our citizens, and we're going to embed YouTube videos, kind of how-tos, multilingual YouTube videos to show and demonstrate how they can easily establish that type of payment online. And then the good news is the fully PCI compliant environment of our payment provider captures all that data and saves it, and then you don't have to worry about going back in there and redoing it all. It's just, hey, you're ready to make your payment again, click. And then the goal from there is to then expand and provide kind of an app-based view that shows you when your scheduled payments are coming up, so you get instant notifications pushed to your phone. And then you're just clicking through, penning it, it's saved, and going, kind of like what you have with Amazon. So we want to repeat that as much as humanly possible.
And from a staff perspective, there's a lot of cool things with this, and with additional program that we're hoping to layer on this that Chris has shown me with different AI tools for that just tracks images and changes on properties, like improvements that maybe weren't tracked by zoning, illegal improvements, or assessors for calculating additions and things like that. In the future, they're working on AI for road conditions as well. So just from, imagery to be able to the computer do the analysis for that. So there's a lot of cool possibilities here in the future.
And the goal is, and always has been, to search for partners that can provide services to the city at scale that we can attach ourselves to and reap all the benefits while not paying the inordinate amount of cost that would have been the case 10 years ago. So a lot of companies are moving more towards a subscription type service. So us at the lower end of the spectrum in terms of just the size of our organization, we get a lot of benefits to newer technologies. We just have to find the right ones and see if they work for us. And then last but not least, and I think I might have to sign into this one real quick, the quick dashboard level view. Like I said, these are, maybe, there we go. I have done this like 1,000 times, I think it was. I don't remember my password. So you can think of it like in terms of just kind of our dashboard. So this is an example of maybe like a couple months worth of spec data from our fire rescue department. We utilize a tool called Image Trend. I spoke to our fire marshal. He said it's cool to show this live, but this would be like an internal facing tool. And essentially it just captures call data, separates it, sorts it into the different types of filters, provides them kind of a comprehensive level view. Heat map chart, kind of where things are going on. This just happens to be an instance where there was multiple fires reported in one area, so this little portion pops out a little bit, but that's just kind of how the system works. Automatically schedules different types of data that we want to sift over here. Then we can always kind of sift it over and find different types of incident types, categories, or filter by dates. You can pin this here if you want to make sure that if you can kind of have it in one view. But of course, if you like the the big pretty maps kind of being full force and you want to pull these over, there's just a lot of different ways that we can compile information into one view that helps drive your operational decision making. Like I said, this isn't just for public safety measures, it's for something that could be for parks and recreation or also for our financial data. So there's just a lot of cool uses. And it's literally just giving them data, then throwing it into this and being like, does this work? And then that's what we've been doing over the last 6 months. Just a lot of iterative
That's great.
Build
That
out.
is, yeah.
And this is repeatable, that we can roll out to different departments within our city. And we have, with our government relationship with Esri, who provides the service, we have almost limitless licenses. So we're not necessarily user limited as a city. So, are there any questions on this?
Okay. Any questions?
No.
No.
Okay. Vice Mayor Banks, do you have any questions?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank
you.
All right.
Well, I didn't know if they wanted to ask about the Microsoft.
Any questions on 365?
Not yet.
Other than you'll like it. A lot better. You'll like it a lot better than what you've got now.
The reason that right now it's really yellow is that Microsoft is having some trouble with their tenants, with new tenants. So we want to make sure they get that worked out. What the issue is before we snap and move over on that. But all right, so IT department. I just wanted to show you a couple slides on where we're at, where we're going. This slide comes from our one system of Aristotle that we recently purchased. It shows that yes, we do still have some old servers. Yes, we do have Windows 7. We're working to get those moved over, upgraded. It takes time. And we just got Ashley back, so we're seeing stuff improve in speed on getting stuff moved. This software is a very powerful software. In the future, I'll show you more slides of some of the stuff it can do, but it's a very good purchase for us to keep track of stuff that's coming in and what we're doing. All right, so just to show you their help desk. I can't give you a whole lot of information because the help desk solution we have right now is before we had this, we just had email as our help desk. I found this system that's free, and when you get a free system, there are some things you can do and some things you can't do. One of the things it can't do is it does not do good reporting at all. But it does do the tickets, and it does allow us to remote into computers and servers and stuff for right now. I know we have it in the budget for this next year to upgrade to a new system, so we're going to do better tracking on tickets and that. But if you look here, this is from the this last quarter. You can see how many tickets were generated by the system and how many tickets were generated by the users out there. Our SLA is 36 hours, so I was surprisingly that we were doing as good as we did for how only having being down one person during that time period. The automated tickets are tickets that come in like a server, hard drive space is getting to, we need to, reduce what's on it, get rid of that, some of the old data, clean up stuff, move data around, get rid of stuff that's old. And here's the one I'm sure everyone is most interested in is our cybersecurity and threats. So just so you know that we are part of several groups. One of the groups is Manassas, which is a multi-state information sharing and analyzing center. And the other group, one of the main other groups we're in is the NOVA CISO security, cybersecurity group. These have helped us out with some of the stuff like the grant that we got for the Albert device is from there. Albert device, if you see there, is it monitors everything coming in through our two main sites, which is here through Verizon and at PD through Comcast, and it analyzes all the data. The stuff goes back to their SOC, which is 24 hours. They analyze it and let us know if there's an issue. Like this shows an issue came up that this execution was trying to go on a certain IP address on our server through the firewall, and I addressed it. We closed the door to make sure. Sometimes we have to get with the vendor and say, okay, does this need to be open? Do you need this? If so, can we put it to an exact IP that's the only thing that can get through? So this helps us. We've had maybe 3, and since we had the system, which is really good compared to the group that I've talked to, I've had some bigger issues with it. The next part is the malware status. That's from our Barracuda. That's only for 1 month. If you look at that, which is the 509 blocked, but that's only for 1 month. It's so big stuff coming in that it only does for a month period of keeping that data for me to look at. The next section below is we get a quarterly report from MS ISAC. on what's going on out there. So this isn't what has happened to us. This just tells us what the last quarter, their first quarter, our third quarter, what they've seen is out there and what issues have come up. And helps gives us an idea of what we're looking for and what we're trying to watch and block. That is the end of mine. Is there any questions?
Questions? Yes.
Regarding the security, I know we get those phishing scams. I know sometimes under Jeanette's name.
Yeah.
How can we prevent the?
That's a hard problem because we can't. Because the way they spoofed it sometimes, all we can do is block the IP it comes from. So when it comes in, it's saying it's coming in from her, or Laszlo, or from that. And as soon as we're notified about it, we go into the Barracuda and block it. But we have to be careful, make sure we are blocking the right thing. So we look at the IP address where it's coming from and the domain, and then we can block it.
So you can't prevent that from beforehand.
Very hard to prevent it.
Yeah.
Because you don't know where the email, because as soon as you block that one, they move to a different one.
Yeah.
And then later on it comes back out again.
Because you get a lot of
get those. She keeps asking
for money.
Gift cards. Those gift cards, right?
No, they're hitting Prince William County pretty hard too.
Yeah, they are. You saw what happened with the pipeline. And stuff. So they're hitting and knowing they're getting money from it. That's the problem is. That.
Do you have a follow-up?
No, that's
okay. Do you have a question?
No question.
No question. Vice Mayor Banks, do you have a question?
Thanks, Don.
No? Okay. Thank you, Don. Much appreciated.
Next up is Valerie.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the governing body. I'd like to first start with an announcement of an upcoming retirement. Jennifer Spring, our current payroll manager, is looking to retire to spend more time with her family and her new granddaughter. So since the payroll manager role is such a critical position for the city, we've already recruited and hired her replacement. Since there's such a huge learning curve to the role and all the associated job functions that go with it. So in turn, we have hired Vicki Frisbee. She was hired in early April as the payroll and benefits manager. And since she started, Vicki's been spending her days shadowing Jennifer on all payroll and benefits related duties. And as of this past month, she's been taking more of an active role, more lead role, with all the associated tasks that go with that. Vicki has proven herself to be a quick learner and is progressing very well in her new role. Jennifer will be deeply missed, and we certainly will want to do something to recognize, her many years of service and commitment and dedication to the city of Manassas Park. And there's no doubt I will cry on her last day. Not only, do we work closely together, but, I consider her a friend. So recruitment, next section, recruitment, want to just kind of talk a little bit about some key positions for HR. As I mentioned, we hired Vicki Frisbee as payroll benefits manager in early April. For the police department, we have a new hire for parking enforcement officer that is scheduled to begin on Monday, June 14th. For Department of Social Services, we're currently recruiting for a full-time family services specialist. And as of the last time I spoke with Randy, she had about 20 applications that have come through so far. So I'm sure there's been more since then. Currently recruiting for a part-time family services specialist, CSA coordinator. And as the last time I spoke with Randy, about 15 applications received to date. Both of these positions will remain open until filled, and we're looking at an approximate start date of July 1st. And DSS recently brought on an intern for the summer as a family services intern. Her name is Sarah Boyd, and she comes to us from Longwood University. For Community Development Public Works, we are currently recruiting for the following positions: a transportation program manager, a code enforcement inspector, this will be a part-time position, crew worker 1 for sites and inspections, and crew worker 1 for our streets department. Parks and Recreation currently recruiting for the following positions. We're looking for a recreation specialist, special events. We've already received a lot of resumes come through, a couple internal interested applicants, and through Indeed, a lot of interest. And then we're also looking to hire an administrative position due to a recent departure in the department. Open enrollment. We just came off a successful open enrollment. The open enrollment period ran from April 15th through May 14th. And unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we were unable to have the benefits fair in person with all our vendors coming out like we we're used to doing. We were available to provide information packets, answer questions, and so forth for our employees. However, fortunately, the healthcare insurance went down, and there were no changes in the overall medical coverage plans. So good news there. Moving on, we want to talk a little bit about turnover. I have a little chart here. In the left corner, I listed out on the various departments. So we have PD, and that also includes our E911, Fire Department, Community Development, Public Works, Department of Social Services, Parks and Rec, and then we have administration. And just want to tell you, administration, that consists of employees in the city manager office, HR, IT, finance, commissioner of revenue, treasurer's office, and registrar's office. We want to lump those all together because they're such small departments, so put it all together because it all falls under the umbrella of administration. So if you look in the second column, that'll be the number of vacancies, departures ending March 31st of 2021 versus in the fourth column, the vacancies departures as of March 31st of 2020. Okay, and then kind of wanted to review the turnover rates for PD. Turnover rate for Q3 2021 was 32% versus same time frame in 2020 at 28%. So you can see that there was an increase of 4% turnover. For fire in 2021, 14% versus in 2020, 18%. So that actually came down 4%. Community Development, Public Works, 27% in 2021 versus 29% in 2020, so reduction 2% turnover. Department of Social Services in 2021, turnover of 17% versus 35%. And I know that number in 2020 seems kind of high, but it's a relatively small department, and they had, as you can see, 6 departures, mainly attributed to like family services positions, their human assistance positions, admin assistants. Let's see, Parks and Rec, 12% for 2021, and we didn't have any departures, any vacancies, so 0% turnover.
In 2020?
In 2020.
Yeah.
And then for administration, we had a 10% turnover in 2021 versus 0% for 2020 due to no departures. So wanted to just kind of show that. Sick and admin leave. This is just a snapshot of the sick and admin leave for the time frame of third quarter 2020 versus third quarter of 2021. At the end of March fiscal year 21, we recorded 9,615 hours of sick admin leave, in which 8,300 was attributed to actual sick leave, and the 1,300 due to admin leave that was associated with COVID-19 related leave. So essentially, exposure, symptomatic, or actually, contracting COVID. As for the same time frame in fiscal year 20, 9,484 hours were attributed to sick leave only. And this was only 131, only like 131 hour difference overall. And this was just prior to COVID taking full effect. So not too much of an increase, considering. And currently, I am pleased to report that we do not have any employees out due to any COVID-related illness. So, knock on wood.
That is good news.
To do better, because we did have a tough time for a while.
Okay.
And for the past few weeks, we've been doing that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, would you like to take some questions? Okay. Councilmember Amaya?
No questions.
Okay. Councilmember Moore?
No questions. Thank you. Excellent report.
No questions.
Okay. Asid?
Yeah, the vacancies are for unfrozen positions, right? It doesn't account for frozen positions.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And do the departments currently do exit strategy, exit interviews?
They do.
And then that goes to your department?
They do.
For filing?
Review it, and
Yeah.
if there's any kind of questionable comments, those are shared with the department.
Yeah. I mean, I would like to know, like, some of the turnover. We know the gist of why people are leaving, but some of the comments, I think, would be good to, if it's public, if we could have access to it. Or,
Yeah, as long as we're not attributing, kind of like we do with the survey, and we're hoping again to do an all-employees meeting.
Yeah, I
in
think we
August.
did a survey.
Yeah, so in August, so we're going to want to survey again our employees. And remember, last time I did that, because of COVID, we didn't do it last year.
Right.
We provided kind of snapshot quotes from our employees
I
about
remember.
what they like about being here or what they like to see improved as well. So those are usually good times to provide them. We don't attribute it to any employee, though.
As long as it's nothing to tie it to
Correct.
someone.
Right.
Okay. You follow up? Councilmember questions. Vice Mayor Banks, do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah, just thank you for the report, and please extend my thanks to Jennifer Spring for her service to the city and to our community, and thank you for allowing for the smooth transition of Vicki to shadow her and take over.
Absolutely, we're happy to have Vicki on board, but it's kind of bittersweet with Jennifer leaving. But I guess at some point we all look forward to retiring.
Did you say when her last day?
I don't know when that will be for me.
Right. Did you say when her last day was? I didn't.
She's looking at mid-July.
Mid-July. Thank you.
She's going to help out with the all the COLA adjustments because that can be complicated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Preston, did I interrupt you? My apologies.
Oh, no, it's fine. Just please tell her congratulations on the retirement. That's all.
I sure will. Thank you.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie.
Okay, next up we have Stephen Total.
Thank you, last one. Finally, you said a good thing for last. So I shall be quick. It won't take more than a minute. Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council members, audience at home and here at City Hall. For the last 4 years, last one I have been here. These are a lot of numbers, but the numbers speak for themselves. It reflected what the city manager and the city leadership has done for the city in terms of prudent fiscal management. There are a few numbers, but it speaks volume. There is a few takeaway on the numbers on this page and the next page. Over here, I'm a simple person, so I have a simple number to share. It shows for the month of April, and the next slide will show a pattern of change month over month for the fiscal year 2021. Over here, we show the incoming revenue of 2.2 million, but we spent faster than what we brought in, 3.3 million, for the net deficit of 1.1. But don't jump to the conclusion yet. I know I chose a pie for a reason. Whatever came in, we spent all and more, so I cannot show the pie outside 100% green. So the good news on here is that Lasso has done a great job for the past 4 years. Kudos to Lasso, governing body, and the leaders of the city. So the change, when we compare to a year ago, current cash position of 10.2 million show an increase of 1.6 to 1.7 million. I just checked as of the end of May, we were at 12 million. As of today, only one day into June, we are at 13 million and it's growing because we are still diligently collecting property tax money. And thank you very much to our treasurer for her hard work and the team. So she has done a great job. And now, as compared to last year, I indicated that there was a change of 1.7 million. Two key drivers of the change is due to the 5% increase in our assessment and the remaining 400 and some change, 400,000 and more from the delinquent collection. So that's a great job in the history of the city for the 4-year period that I've been here. So thank you very much to the treasurer on that. So as relative to the current, the change dropped by 1.1 million, and there is a reason for that. Let's move to the next page. On here, I don't know if you can see the numbers or not, and we'll start from the upper left-hand corner and going down, followed by the change month over month. So we are at 10.2 million. Don't look for the legend around. I just tried to make it a rainbow. So I don't know how otherwise to make a picture pretty. 10.2 million, that might not be much, but compared to the past, it's pretty good. It's still growing, we're not there yet. So as I said, we are now at 13 million and it's still counting. So relative to the picture below, you can see that there is a peak somewhere in the center that is for the month of December when the collection of treasure came in heavily.
For real estate. For real estate taxes in December and June. Yeah.
It changed month over month, and then on the last one on the right, the bar on the right, it shows where we are with April. So month over month on average, we spend about 3-point-something million. If the money came in only at 2.2, definitely we have a deficit. Why? Because for the month of April, we have 3 paychecks. So payroll of 1.6 million represent 3 pays. We have the first part of April, mid part, and the end of the month. There are 3 months in the year where we pay out 3 times a month. So it's good for us, for those who are looking for more pay or more saving. So, and in addition to that, we also have USA that we have to pay on a quarterly basis. That is close to $900,000. And cash is a key element for any business operation. That allows us to make timely payment for our short-term and long-term obligations. And you also happen to be the month of April where we pay out every $60,000, and other vendor and payment close to $800,000. In here, it now reflect the transfer to school over slightly $1 million because we paid that out of our investment account. So that's why it's not reflected here. We had a preparation on this demo before I came on here. I had 5 minutes to research as to what happened to that. So for the future, I will incorporate that clearly into my slide. So with that said, that's a takeaway for tonight. So any questions for me?
Can you explain again what is not reflected here? I didn't quite catch it.
School, for the budget is about 4 million, approximately 1 million a month.
Okay, thank you. I couldn't quite hear. Thank you.
So just for reference, in 2017, 2018, Fawn and I were originally managing this. October, November was like down here, like close to negative. We actually had to borrow. So you can see the change down in 20 and 21, and that's again, we've just been building up the fund balance the last few years. But those who were here remember having to do short-term borrowing because it was always these months. So to see this high number, again, this year I was just shocked with how much better we've gotten compared to that time when we actually got to negative and we had to use a line of credit. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Real improvement. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'm just trying to figure out, like, if September and October, November are low, what's happening in July and August that's a little bit higher?
So what's not here, so you'll see it when we do the next one, June. So December and June is when we collect real estate.
Yeah.
So Those are our peaks, and then they go down until the next. So from June all the way to December, it's going down.
It's like the lingering
December,
payments.
Then goes down till June, then it goes back up again.
Okay.
But overall, you want to look at, these are the critical months because we have a lot of debt payments usually.
Okay.
So with the refinancing, that also helped these months, but we've been doing heavy debt payments during these months. Plus we hadn't collected significant revenue since June. Luckily, we collect the personal property tax around this time too, so that gives us a cushion. But even with personal property tax, historically, we had to borrow around this time. Going back to the decals helped. We got some more cash with that. So there was a lot of changes that were done to kind of get us to this point. But this is a powerful number here compared to just where we were just 4 years ago.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I forgot to point out on the revenue section on the upper right-hand corner where I show revenue composition for the month of April. A difference between the first line item deposit and the second one. It's just to show appreciation of the hard work of the treasury on the deposit. All of those are money processed within the city hall for utilities and taxes. And were put in the bank, 1.1 million for that month. And the second bullet is just to show how the money hit the bank right away without being processed here at the city hall. So including it, we have delinquent tax collection and the collection from the credit card over $200,000. So that's the pattern. Normally it takes about a week to get the money from the merchant.
Okay. Follow up, Councilmember Hampton? Councilmember Javed, questions?
No question. That reflects true cash on hand.
Correct.
Right, on the balance on the bank.
Okay. Councilmember Benson?
No question.
Councilmember Moore?
Paul, I appreciate your charts and graphs. It's very it's just when I saw the first 10 million in red, I just said, why is it negative? Maybe another color, purple or blue. Excellent, very good, thank you.
Councilmember Maya?
No question.
Okay. Vice Mayor Banks, questions, comments?
Thank you for the presentation and staying up this late. My question is, when do we make the debt payments? I thought we make it twice a year.
All the different debt payments. Yeah, it's scattered really throughout, right?
For the debt payment, it's very heavy in July, August, October, January, and April. So very heavy first part of the year. So about approximately 4 million. So that's why it's good that we have our tax due in June, but we now are 6 weeks to 8 weeks ahead of the billing. To allow collection.
Follow up, Preston?
No, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Pon, very much. Feels good to not be critical condition anymore. Feels good.
That's all we have for tied to the measure.
Okay, well, we go into closed session now. City Attorney, would you like to read us in?
I recommend the governing body go into closed meeting to consult with the city attorney and other legal counsel pertaining to 1, litigation against the city filed by Reagan Miller, a former city police officer. 2, litigation against Novak relating to the Connor Drive road improvement plan filed by the city. Litigation against the city filed by Michael Shepard, a resident of Mosby Ridge. And 4, probable litigation related to the city's use of eminent domain for the acquisition of Lot 1A Connor Center for the new city hall, public parking, and public road, pursuant to paragraph 7 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia, and to consult with the city attorney regarding contract negotiations with GH City Center LLC to amend the existing ground lease for parking on City Hall and the Connor House parcel, pursuant to paragraph 8 of subsection 2.2-3711A of the Code of Virginia.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Preston, are you going to be joining us in person?
Yes, just give me 5 minutes.
Yes, absolutely. We'll take a comfort break. Thank you. Thank you.